Diamond Comics has been the biggest distributor of comics for the last 30 years. And up until the debacle in 2020, when DC took their ball and went home and got distribution through Lunar, they were the monopoly in the comic book distribution market. Well, this week it was announced, it came out that Diamond has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is something that a lot of people have prayed for.
No. Oh my God. The haters.
I agree. A lot of people have celebrated the concept of, and now we are here. Now we are living in the reality in which Diamond's future is absolutely in jeopardy. Already, publishers are making moves. We've had a lot of responses from not only retailers, but creators working in the space who have a lot to say, positively and negatively, about Diamond. And there are a lot of question marks. We have answers to some of those questions, but I've also got some more questions.
Hmm.
We are going to dive into the nuts and bolts of Diamond's bankruptcy claim and try to figure out what this means for the comics industry in the short term, medium, and long term. We have on deck today Marco.
K-Lo K.
We've got Tyler.
I only speak English. Hello, guys.
Uh,
And I'm Sean. Thank you for being here. Whether you are with us live or in the future, make sure to smash that like button. I want to say thank you because a whole bunch of you, we woke up. We joined the stream to see that quite a few of you decided to become channel members here live. So I want to say thank you to Young Dende,
oh.
Slippery Fox, Austin C, who all became VI pals. Thank you guys so much. That is going to give you access to everything we do on the YouTube side of things. Also, thanks to Samuel Summers for becoming a sidekick and Venomark for re-upping his membership for another month, 2 month member. Thank you guys so much for that. Really, really appreciate you. Carter Mitchell says, been pretty interested in hearing you guys chat about this. Glad to catch it live. I'm glad you're catching it live. We have a lot to say. A lot of you people filing in already. Thank you for that. We've got a lot to talk about today. In addition to Diamond and everything going on with them, we're going to talk about the master himself, Neil Gaiman,
Oof.
and the disgusting allegations that have come out about him this week. It's a big week. We've had the driest weeks ever for the
Yeah.
last like 2 months. I haven't had shit to bring up here as far as news. And this week it's just like a deluge of stuff.
They've been keeping it in the back pocket. Like it's been good books, but the world of comics has been kind of like waiting.
Holiday season's over. People are finally circling back like they said they would, and it's the worst
Yeah.
thing ever.
Still waiting for a few emails, so I don't know.
It's true, yeah.
Well, let's circle back to the bankruptcy of Diamond Comics because on Tuesday, Chuck Parker, who is the president of Diamond, wrote a letter to comic book stores and to publishers to let them know what it is that is going on behind the scenes and to announce the fact that they are, in fact, going through the bankruptcy process. So, this is the letter that he wrote. Dear valued customer, I'm writing to share one of the most challenging messages of my career. Earlier today, Diamond made the difficult but necessary decision to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This step is intended to stabilize our financial foundation and protect the most vital aspects of our business. This decision was not made lightly, and I understand that this news may be as difficult to hear as it is for me to share. The Diamond leadership team and I have worked tirelessly to avoid this outcome, but the financial challenges we face have left us with no other viable option. Chapter 11 will provide us with the opportunity to restructure and address our financial obligations. This process will likely include the sale of key assets of Diamond Comic Distributors. We have already received a commitment from Universal Distribution to purchase Alliance Game Distributors, coupled with a signed letter of intent to purchase Diamond UK, and we remain committed to pursuing offers for all Diamond lines of businesses. He goes on to reassure retailers that they will still be able to receive their books and process their orders through Diamond as usual for the time being. The future, the short-term future is stable, according to the president of Diamond. And of course, he goes on to talk about all the possible options for them as far as questions and whatever they need to figure out. I think it's important to understand the history of Diamond and why this is happening. So, Diamond entered the fray as a distribution arm of comics, what, 4 decades ago? At this point, it's been a very, very long time.
1982, I think.
So, yeah, very, very long time ago. And Diamond entrenched themselves into the industry pretty quickly. Diamond is the one that started the comic shop locator service, which was a number you could call. I don't even know if you still can, but they set that up as a number you could call to find out where your comic shop is. In 1994, Diamond owned and operated 45% of the market, which is massive when you consider the fact that uh, we had Capital City at the time, we had Heroes World Distribution at the time, which was actually Marvel's publishing arm. Marvel themselves published their own books through Heroes World, which is crazy. Needless to say, Heroes World didn't work out. Capital City got purchased by Diamond, and that's how we got to the monopoly. Because Marvel signed an exclusive deal with Diamond, Heroes World went the way of the dodo, and that was that. So ever since 1997, we have had a monopoly in comics as far as distribution. In 2000, we had the pandemic,
2020.
and DC made, 2000, 2020,
I was like,
excuse
what
me.
did I miss?
Yeah,
I must have dodged
Y2K.
that one. Oh
That's
yeah,
what-
digital
oh,
digital
that's what it-
pandemic. Got
Yes,
it. Okay.
yes.
that's right.
We had the pandemic in 2020, and DC took the opportunity to dip away from Diamond and sort of not start their own publishing or distribution line, but align with Lunar and who else was it? It was DCS or whatever it was, and do their own distribution thing. There were many years of complaints about late shipping, packages that would come busted up and unsellable, various problems. And I guess DC saw an opportunity through the pandemic to make a change. They were already planning on doing it. This accelerated their timeline, and they broke away. That led to the dominoes falling. Marvel made the decision to do the same thing in 2021. Image made that choice. Bunch of publishers did. Some didn't. Diamond still publishes a lot of comics, especially overseas through Diamond UK. But that is how we have arrived at this moment. And make no mistake, this is a big, big deal. Just because Marvel and DC and Image made the change to Penguin Random House and Lunar, respectively, doesn't mean that Diamond is not a major player still. What are your early thoughts on this?
I remember when we did initial reporting, one of the things that stuck out to me was also how Diamond was a lender. They were effectively like a bank where, if to some degree you were not able as a shop to afford comics or be able to uh, purchase in the necessary bulk they would also lend out. And it's interesting that I wonder to what degree that has had an effect on the viability of Diamond. I'm sure at some point they have to pay for that debt, and this restructure is probably a way to help with that, and maybe not affect the comic shops. That was my first thought: is how does that waterfall to the shops, not from a distribution standpoint, but from a payment standpoint. And so I'm curious as to how that will carry out as they do restructure, as hopefully someone comes in to be able to pick up the pieces of Diamond, and ideally it doesn't leave these shops out in the cold or owing money.
We're going to talk a lot about that.
For me, it was like it's gonna happen eventually. Most monopolies get busted at some point, whether they want to or the government forces them to. So it wasn't surprising, and I think all the signs were there. Like we talked about them last week, Diamond. With all the shipping delays, or 2 weeks ago, rather. So this is the writing's been on the wall that there's been stuff going on there. Like didn't they just sell one of their big warehouses, something like that? And they're like, oh, don't worry, we're fine.
Yeah,
A week later, bankruptcy. Like this doesn't mean it's the end of Diamond, I don't think, but it is a gut shot. And right now they are just leaking. Those are graphic imagery this early in the morning. I'm sorry, guys. Jeez.
Thank you to Hayden's Hideout for the $10. This is their first super chat on live stream. Honored that you would share it with us. Hey there, comics pals. I took a break from comics for a majority of 2024, but got back in with DC's absolute titles and found your channel shortly after. I'm glad I found this gem of a channel. Hayden, thank you so much for the kind words. I am glad that you jumped back in to comics, and I'm glad that you found us. There were a lot of great books in 2024. I highly encourage you to do a little bit of archaeology. Great stuff out there. What else are you into? Is it just DC? Because I feel like Image had a great year.
Yeah.
Marvel did some cool stuff. So there's a lot out there.
And shout out to Sean Ali as well for becoming a Comics Pal sidekick.
Yes, thank you, Sean. A regular around here. Appreciate you, Sean. Uh, Hayden broke super chats wide open. Anybody who feels like contributing, we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much to those of you who do that. While we are referencing the chat, I do want to say hello to Gore Vidal, Gavin Gidry, the man himself. Great job in Immortal Thor number
Yeah.
19 this week, Gavin. That was your page was excellent. Great book overall. Ben Loudly, how you doing? CW Gordon, good to see you. Shadow Walker, what's up? Young Dende shouted you out earlier. Good to see you here. We were together last night. Last night we did Pals polls. A lot of you were there, so it's a double dip for you guys.
It's literally like after the show, I watched the movie and I went to sleep, and I'm waking up and just doing the show again. I'm like, oh, it's like closing and opening a store when you work retail.
I wish that was my life. Like we just wake up every day and do a show. It'd be beautiful.
Stream for a couple hours.
Hell yeah. Those are just the names I can see right now. Smash the like button. Keep saying hello. Keep chatting. We love to see you guys. Okay. So we did the history lesson. I think all of that is important to understand. And I think it's also important to understand the way in which this occurred, why this is happening. So Diamond has had problems for a while. I told you guys that, there were shipping issues and blah, 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 going back even 5 years, right? However, it cannot be understated how impactful losing DC and Marvel as the prime distributor was for Diamond. Those are the biggest accounts that exist in comics. So when you lose primary distribution over those accounts, it's going to mean a loss of revenue. Certainly to the tune of millions. For a company that already probably had financial problems due to the nature of comics. So we are in a space now where their biggest accounts were Distillery and Vault and, AWA, publishers like that who big as they might be, aren't a Marvel or a DC by any means. And Image already jumped ship. They didn't even have Image as a main account for them. So, no good. No
Bad.
good. Yeah,
No good, muy bad.
very bad.
I mean, that's what happens though, because the pandemic was the out that these big publishers needed to change things.
It,
There has been issues with Diamond for years now, but it's because they were a monopoly. It's hard to be like, oh well, I can't deal with you anymore.
it provided the out because I remember at the time it coincided with the ending of their contracts, and so
Damn.
it it just provided you're right, provided the out, right? It was hey, we have the opportunity to, take advantage of, we re-sign with Diamond, or we forge our own path. And I think at the time I feel like we probably reviled them, but I think, and I still think, that this was the smarter long-term decision. This was the way to be able to help themselves even in an unsavory time.
I think when it first happened in the Marvel and DC did this, it was frustrating from like oh, now stores have to deal with all these different distributors. How does a pull list work? Like, how do you maintain a pull list? Like on the online applications, if they're all from different places. But I guess they had more foresight than most of us.
I mean, it worked out for DC, it worked out for Marvel, it worked out for everybody who has made that choice. Uh, Whether or not that was the right decision for the industry as a whole, who knows? I think lay people to comics undervalue Diamond. There are problems, to be sure, but we don't acknowledge what it is that Diamond does well and why having a family owned and operated business in a small industry like comics is actually a very good thing.
Hmm.
Um, this would have happened anyway. Marco's right. The accounts, the contracts were already coming up. DC was not staying with Diamond after 2020 regardless. The pandemic wasn't like, all right, guys, hey, contracts don't matter anymore. It was like, okay, the contract is up. We are leaving. And we don't care that this is a bad time for the industry, especially because at that time, Diamond said, hey, pencils down. We are not shipping comics.
Yeah.
And DC said, you're not shipping our comics. We're going somewhere else.
How long was that not shipping thing happening? I wasn't podcasting at the time, so I don't quite remember.
It was weeks. It lasted weeks. I think I have a 2 month
I was about to
gap
say,
in
yeah.
comics.
Yeah, at most 2 months. Yeah, and it also didn't happen instantaneously. Like, it happened, I want to say, over the summer. So it started spring. We still had books, and then it's like,
Memorial
actually, hold
Day.
on, let's
Yeah.
hold out, and then we came back kind of right before the fall.
Yeah, it sucked. It sucked. I have a hole in my comic book collection that I'll probably never fill because of that. But Diamond made the choice that they felt was right at the time, and frankly, a lot of us couldn't get to shops anyway. So for most of us, it didn't fucking matter. We were concerned with our livelihoods, and staying alive rather than getting our floppies. Um, so let's talk about one of the dominoes that has fallen in the aftermath of this announcement. Let's talk about Image Comics real quick.
Hmm.
So, Image already publishes through Lunar. Lunar distributes Image Comics primarily. However, stores that prefer to deal with Diamond for, in general, for Image, whatever, could still do that as uh, they were being sub-distributed by Diamond still. So Diamond could purchase books through Lunar, and then you could purchase the books through Diamond. That is no longer going to be the case, according to Image, who no longer want to participate in that situation. Diamond, for their part, says that they want to have a conversation with Image to see if they can sway them to sticking around. I don't think that is going to happen. I don't think Image has any interest in being in the Diamond business anymore.
what leverage do they have? Like, it doesn't seem like they have any leverage to sway them outside of people know with our name. Like, I wouldn't stick with them.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
At this point, I mean, it's sort of like being on a sinking ship and being like, "We're gonna ride it out. The captain's gonna figure this out. No worries, guys."
No, not. And I've seen, the publishers that have already started deals, started conversations. But I also wonder, to what degree did they have foresight? Because to be able to announce that you're making the move, that those contracts take months. They take time. So I wonder what backdoor conversations have been happening where they've been preparing for this in the long run. I'm sure you have to, if you're breaking contract, if you're informing somebody that you're no longer doing business with them, that doesn't just go, hey, here's my 2 weeks notice. So it's interesting to see how ready some publishers were to make the switch.
For their part, Distillery, I feel bad for Distillery. Like they just hitched their wagons to Diamond as an exclusive distributor, as a platinum tier, I think it's called, account. And now all this is happening. For their part, Distillery says they are sticking with Diamond. They're going to back the horse and continue things as normal.
I mean, at this point, it sounds
Yeah.
like just call it distillery publishing at this point, like distribution, because it's really all they have.
Yeah, yeah. I
Hell,
mean, they left Lunar to go to Diamond,
That's
which I think is
right.
pretty interesting.
I mean, distillery known for totally understandable business decisions.
Alongside bad idea.
Uh, Dave and Chip, um, who are the owners of Distillery, had the following to say. We're aware of Diamond's bankruptcy announcement today and remain optimistic that they will emerge from the Chapter 11 process stronger and better. Distillery has no current plans to change our distribution arrangements. Should we decide to make any changes to how our products are sold, we will let you know immediately. Okay. Well, I think they're probably going to stick with this for the time being and reevaluate themselves in the future. I don't know if it's hard to say. It's hard to say because Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Look, it doesn't mean that Diamond is going away
Right.
necessarily. It's not what it means. What it means is essentially that they're being given a grace period through which they don't have to worry about their what they owe. They can kind of skirt what they owe. They have the opportunity to sell assets, and the bank, J.P. Morgan in this case, is is giving them a grace period. Now they do have to. Um, they are looking to sell things like Diamond UK, which we talked about, which is actually a profitable company. Diamond UK publishes pretty much everything from the North American direct market in in Europe, outside the US. So they're doing pretty well. And there is a bid in place to actually purchase them already. And it looks like that is going to go through. Um,
It's universal, right?
Universal, yeah.
Yeah.
Universal is looking to pick them up, and it seems like that is going to happen.
Hmm.
Universal being like Universal.
No, it's a Canadian company called Universal
Got it. Okay.
Distribution.
Yeah. Universal Distribution is looking to pick up Diamond UK, and that's going to give potentially Diamond some cash. Now, what's interesting about that is it's a stalking horse bid, which means that this is a collaboration that Diamond and Universal have come to between themselves, and this bid is worth. It looks like right now it's worth uh around $41 million. $43 million is just $39 million is the bid. Uh, but Diamond needs at least 41 million dollars for some of their debt. Diamond owes Diamond owes so many companies. So many. So they owe 31.7 million to their top creditors.
Damn.
Penguin Random House leads their creditors with $9.2 million in debt from Diamond. So Diamond owes Penguin $9.2 million.
And I've watched that show on HBO. You don't want to owe Penguin any kind of money.
That's brutal. That is brutal. They owe Bandai $4 million. I have a list right here. 30 companies that Diamond owes money to. This is not all the companies they owe money to. It's the top 30.
Just the top 30.
Just the top 30 I have in front of me.
Where do we sit on that list, Sean? They definitely owe us money for some shit books.
They owe Pokemon.
I saw that one. Number 22.
The Pokemon Company?
Yeah, they owe $280,000 to Pokemon.
For what?
For
Damn.
I wonder what this one is. Lil Buddy LLC.
I have no idea.
That's the company that
700K.
they used to put out that virus Bonsai Buddy in the 2000s that would go on your computer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Marco's too young for this one. I'm sorry.
I don't know either.
Yeah, okay.
They owe Viz Media. They owe Lunar. They owe Simon and Schuster. They owe a lot of people. They owe Wizards of the Coast. They owe Hasbro $1 million. Disney. They owe $1 million. They owe Marvel. This is a lot. This is a lot of debt that they're in. And so where's that money going to come from?
The sale.
The sale, yes, but also they have people who owe them. Some people owe Diamond.
Okay. This is the part that I'm interested to like figure out.
Sean, do you owe? Did you have a subscription you didn't know about?
I hope not. Shit. And by the way, we've got 110 people with us right now. Thank you guys so much. I love when you show up like this for big industry conversations. It's very emboldening. Thank you guys.
Ben loudly when you owe the ops money.
Right, and they come to collect.
Yo,
The guy's name is
knocking
Chuck,
at the
right? Who owns Diamond?
He's the president.
Yeah.
Steve Jeppy owns Diamond.
Gotcha. Are their knees okay? Did they get like hobbled at all from these creditors?
Oh, Steve Jeppy's walking around with the gat. Jeppy coming. He's walking around looking to get his money from everybody. Everybody that owes. They're going to pay up. And you know who I'm talking about? I am talking about retailers.
Damn.
Marco pointed out earlier, there are a lot of retailers that owe Diamond money.
Chabo.
Because, again, I said it earlier, Diamond is a family company. The comic book industry is very small. So what Diamond would do is if you owe Diamond money and you couldn't pay, they'd let you slide. They would let you slide, and they let you slide in some instances for a long time. So there are a lot of retailers out there, a lot of comic book shops that have been using Diamond essentially as a bank. And they're going to come to collect. So is this going to lead to the bankruptcy of retailers? We can't even conceptualize of how the dominoes are going to fall based on this.
Yeah. That's my worry is this will somehow backlash or fall back upon the retailers who have leveraged Diamond in this way. All grace to Diamond for allowing that and potentially allowing certain retailers to exist, but this becomes the danger of playing with debt like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Like it helped retailers out, but it's also, like you said, dangerous to do because those retailers who couldn't pay before certainly can't pay now. Not under the gun like that.
Yeah.
Flo Dameron makes a good point, who, by the way, runs the Bada Boom podcast, an awesome channel. Basically, the only way for Diamond to do well is be a monopoly, which they don't have anymore. It's tough, right? Diamond had the monopoly. They have not just comics, but they've got toys, they've got games, they've got all these things that they distribute. But they were used to operating as a monopoly for 30 years.
Mm.
It's only the last 5 years that they haven't been the monopoly. So how do you readjust your entire business when you are not the dominant force anymore?
You can't. That's too short of a time frame and too considerable a a combination. DC, Marvel, you're pulling out on a good month, what, 80, 85 of market share?
Well, think about it. If DC or Marvel stopped publishing comics, that would ruin comics. Like they're
Oh,
they're literally just it's like a bridge, and there's two columns keeping it up. If one breaks, the whole bridge is falling down. So if you lose both, I don't know how you're even staying. I don't even know how they stayed up this long.
that's exactly right. And we knew that this would put Diamond in a bad spot. We talked about it on this show in 2020 when this all started to unfold, that this would put Diamond in a bad spot. My biggest concern at the time was that they wouldn't be able to recover and that this would kill the direct market. That definitely did not happen, and I was wrong about that. But Diamond going away or having these types of financial troubles does it does make me kind of concerned for the future of the direct market.
Yeah, yeah. There was a graphic that ComiCon a couple days put up that I've been following ComiCon and like their data more recently, and
Nerd.
um, and they have a pie, right, that effectively looks at, and I'll link this. It's on their threads. 2019, Diamond had 100%. Marvel was at 40%, DC at 29, Image at 8, et cetera, right? The rest make up the difference. And then from there, in September of 2023, Diamond has 16%. The remainder of that is split between 47 at Marvel and 29 in distribution of Lunar and Universal. But the thing was, and to the point that we're making on how long they survived, they were still buying from Penguin and from Lunar for books that were required, DC and Marvel respectively, or Marvel DC respectively, as wholesalers. So that way, people who were retailers didn't have to immediately switch over. They say, well, hold on, we're still like distributing the books because we've purchased them from these other distributors so that you can continue the flow of operation. Now that, I imagine, is coming to bite them.
Right. William Lee says Diamond should have let those retailers fail before. How will they collect the debt now? See, but that's the problem. The comic book industry has been on a tightrope for all these years. Like even if you want to talk about the years of big profitability in the 2000s, the mid 2000s, early 2010s, it's still a far cry from what we were seeing in the heyday of the 90s, in the 80s, and the 70s, and the 60s, right? So if you just let retailers fail, if that's what Diamond chose to do, if they were ruthless like that, not only do we, the consumer, lose, and you, William, lose if your retailer is one of those, but Diamond loses too.
Yeah, it's like
Because who are they selling comics to?
it's like a drug dealer ratting out the people he sells drugs to the cops.
On some level.
Like you're not going to have anywhere to sell it now if there's nobody to buy the book from you.
I want to address this comment from Steve Canaris, and it's in was a previous comment that he had mentioned. This will hurt small publishers the most. The market forces should sort it out, but there will be short-term pain. And then he follows up more recently saying, this will sound ridiculous to some, but capitalism will find a way. If there's demand for the books, there will be a market to sell them in. I agree that there will be a market to sell them in. I agree that that the forces will help in this case, but this is going to be a transformational period where it will, to a much smaller degree, involve Diamond. It will shrink Diamond. It will continue with Lunar. It will continue with Penguin Random House, Universal. Maybe another player, kind of enters the fray if they can to pick up the pieces of Diamond. But also, I think to the point on the retailer end, um, when let's say you skirted 20K over the course of 10 years. Now somebody's coming and saying, "Hey, I need that." What are you doing as a small business? I would argue even something like to the margins of comics. Hey, I need 5K by the, I don't know, end of the month or something. Like I can only imagine those are the conversations that are happening. If it is as dire as we need this money within a certain time frame.
And doesn't this lead to more power with the big two and their publishing, right? Because they have more control of the share. And doesn't that just help those companies have more vertical integration with their I guess IP, which is what they want. I would assume so. I would assume Marvel slash Disney would want complete control over things, including publishing.
Maybe not vertical integration, but I can imagine they individually begin to monopolize stores, like to the degree, and this is my analogy. Um, some stores have Pepsi, some stores have Coke. Like, because they will be able to provide such deep discounts that maybe the other one doesn't become as competitive only for their book, but then that becomes so niche that they're forced to only leverage one publisher. That's
Hold
and
on, hold on, hold on. Are you talking about Marvel? Are you talking when you just said all that you said? Were you talking about distributors or Marvel and DC publishers?
I'm saying as a distributor, you will only be able to distribute. You have such access to uh, Marvel that they can prioritize that, and they will force that upon more people as opposed to Image. Marvel
That's
as a publisher will have more discounts because they have more volume as opposed to Image and other companies for either respective Lunar or Marvel or Random House.
that's what happened in the movie industry in the early years of the movie industry. Production companies were also distributors, and they kind of had vertical integration with movie theaters. So they would really only be showing their stuff, which had to be
Mm.
broken up.
That Marvel will never do that again. Marvel already did that with Heroes World. I just talked
Yeah.
about it, and it was an absolute unmitigated disaster. That will never happen again.
I think they'd sooner let the direct market die and just go straight to digital and just work with book publishing at that point.
They'd be insane, and they also don't need to do that because they have Penguin Random House. They don't need to become a distributor. And Penguin Random House isn't gonna they don't take their marching orders from Marvel. They're a big company unto themselves. They
Mm,
do what they want.
that's fair.
Matt Fisher with the 4.99. Always a pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much. Says, good day. One of my three shops didn't get their Marvel and Indies until yesterday. I'm sorry people lost their jobs, but if local comic book stores go away, we have a bigger problem. Totally, completely, absolutely right. Diamond has sucked over the last few weeks for not getting books into shops on time. But the fact that they are announcing a bankruptcy illuminates why they've been having these problems. They don't have money. They don't have money. And I'm not telling you that you should say, fuck DC and Marvel for leaving Diamond. I'm not saying that. I am saying, though, that DC and Marvel leaving Diamond is the reason this is happening.
Mm, mm.
I'm not applying a judgment to that. I'm just saying it is a fact.
James says the government should not have allowed them to monopolize the distribution to begin with. We have antitrust laws for a reason, and that is because capitalism tends to produce monopolies that can. I think in this case, this was one of the few, if only, monopolies allowed because it was supporting the entirety of the business on its back. It was a necessary monopoly to allow for a market to exist.
It's also super niche too. So they already have
Yeah.
trouble breaking up, cable companies and, internet service providers. I don't think comic books is really on the government's radar.
They actually investigated them almost immediately. In 96, they became a monopoly. In 97, they had an antitrust lawsuit or investigation into them. In 2000, that investigation was closed, and the government found that there was no problem. I don't understand how the government found that there was no problem,
Word.
but because it definitely was at the time a monopoly without question. But I think there could be, without knowing for a fact, there could be something to what Marco just said, to where they looked at it and said, "Shit, if we do something about this, we could be destroying this entire industry."
We
I
should
don't know.
look. We should look into Geppy's political campaign donations around that time.
Yo, hey, family, right? It's a family business. Who's part of the family? Matt Fisher with the 199 says, honestly, I blame Waller for all of this. We're feeling the repercussions, man.
She did just escape prison, so maybe this is what she's
Hey,
up to. Yeah.
Gavin Guidry makes an excellent point. Once upon a time, DC distributed Marvel books and forced them to only publish a certain amount, maximum of books. There's a long history of shady shit going on when one distributor has too much power. That is absolutely correct. I have a direct market deep dive in me that I've been dying to do for a while, and hopefully that'll be something I can do this year. If I worry about people showing up for that, although the number of people watching us right now is emboldening for sure. Um, all that stuff is stuff that I'm desperate to discuss because I think it's so interesting. And I go back to the idea that a lot of us who read comics and love it so much don't actually know a lot about the industry and how we got to a direct market in the first place and why we have it and why it's vital. But think about this: without Diamond, how many retailers would have gone under in the last 20 years? How many retailers would have gone under in 1998?
The direct market wouldn't exist the same way it does right now.
No. And like you could say, oh, well, we would still be here, right? Like 2025 would still arrive and the industry would be whatever it was going to be. And maybe those growing pains were things we needed to go through at that time. But Marvel was selling fucking furniture. Marvel was selling furniture. That's how bad it was for them. So if Marvel barely survived and DC scraped by, what would have happened to comic book shops who couldn't sell a Marvel or DC comic to save their fucking life?
Yeah, like if Marvel was ever bought out by Disney, who knows? If DC wasn't bought out either, if they were
DC,
just
DC was bought out a long time. They were bought out in the 80s. Marvel was bought out in 2008. But like, what happens to all those retailers? They're gone. They're cooked. They don't exist.
they just become Magic the Gathering stores, Sean. That's exactly what happens. It's the natural state of niche gaming stores.
Yeah. Chad Cowder says, will some smaller publishers become direct to store and skip the middleman? That is a fantastic question. And I have an answer. The answer is yes. In the case of Vault Comics, who have announced that they will be offering an alternative to Diamond, that being direct to retailer distribution. Now, I think that is a rough water to navigate, but if it's on a small scale, then it may be something that they can fulfill. We'll see.
Which for Vault is small scale. I don't think they put out more than 2 books, 3 books at this point.
But then what's
You still
I
need
wonder
infrastructure for that.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you have to use a third party. I mean, like I worry about the costs increasing and the margin shrinking. It can be done, but the viability, I wonder how that looks long term.
Well, they also announced that they're going to be doing free shipping for the first 6 months, and shipping costs are brutal on, like, in general, shipping costs are brutal. One of the problems that retailers have is shipping costs and the amount of like gymnastics that have to be done to keep shipping costs down is a problem that Vault may be underestimating.
And then you got the specter of tariffs happening too. It's a 1-2 punch right now. This
Yeah.
could spell disaster Sorry, I
A
always
sacrifice.
I always got to default to the Steiner math.
Uh, yeah, and we just put out a video that our channel members can watch right now about that very topic. It kind of takes what we're discussing now and everything that's been going on and puts it into one big conversation. Um, yeah, that is a fact. The tariffs issue is a major issue as well, looming over comics like a fucking guillotine. There are a lot of things that are problematic right now. Samuel Summers drops a $10 super chat on us. Thank you, Samuel, so much, dude. You became a channel member and you're dropping 10 on us. That's beautiful. No offense. I just watch the show every Saturday. I do not care about the topic. Hey, none taken. Thank you for making this appointment viewing for you. That's a beautiful thing.
And say hi to Scott and Alex for me.
Nice.
Hell yeah, dude.
Nice.
Charlotte says anything industry related is super fascinating and interesting to listen to, especially as someone who knows nothing about the behind the scenes. Thank you for saying that. And you know, our job, our role here is to educate where we can. We have a lot of fun on this podcast, but I think a part of our responsibility is education.
Yeah, and new channel member Young Dende says, learning how the sausage is made will always be fun. That direct market deep dive will feed families.
Hey, hopefully it feeds our families.
I still haven't gotten Popeyes after that Popeyes discussion we had a couple weeks back. So, I could, if you want to feed me some chicken, I'm not against that.
Every Wednesday, right, Sean?
Every Wednesday, bro.
It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Sean's getting Popeyes.
Yup, that's a fact. So I would love to shift gears and talk about how people are reacting to this news because the reactions have been fascinating and I think they do more to illuminate the situation. But before we do that, before we get into that, I want to take a quick moment to address and thank a few people, a few of our our patrons. Patreon.com/the Comics Pals is how this podcast is supported because we don't run ads. We don't have any sponsors. We are sponsored by you guys. And so I want to say a special shout out to our Palsverse legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice Atomic Hound, who is notably absent. Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, the Spirit of Judgment, Jay's Jumble, Matthew Malice Price, who I think is with us. And I want to say thank you to Palsverse members, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dameron, who's with us, Christian Uncaged, Always Laughing, the Spear of Justice, Izzy Spears, the Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Casterback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, James Just Jamming Jones, who is with us, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade, Cosmo, BJ Kicks, and the Living Blade Boss Frontier. If you didn't hear your name, we will be getting to those later on. I want to keep the show going and pumping. Let's get into some industry reactions. Alan Gill, who is the owner of the comic book store chain Ultimate Comics, says there is no one currently who can replace the services and intangibles that Diamond Comic Distributors provides. The monthly previews catalog brings all the toy, statue, and novelty products that are manufactured each month, as well as a multitude of comic book publishers in one catalog. Who else is going to step up to do that? A world without Diamond is definitely going to hurt not only small to medium-sized comic book retailers by limiting the access they currently have to Funko, Monogram, and other novelty bestsellers, but the small comic publishers will have no one to realistically distribute their books. How does a retailer know in advance what they need to order from anything?
Usually a bit of witchcraft, some oracle, maybe consult the oracle.
Throw some
Ponder
sticks.
the orb.
The answer is previews. We hate solicits. Like, I personally wish I could show up every Wednesday to my comic book shop and just like not even know what's going to be on the stands. That'd be fun as fuck. But that doesn't work for the world. Like, shops order stuff months in advance. It's like three-ish months in advance of you seeing it on shelves. That's how we know what's going to happen Free Comic Book Day now, right? So that is a critical fact. But if you remove Diamond from the equation and there is no previews and they don't do solicits and nobody is running that stuff, then what happens to shops who need to get their Funko orders in? What happens?
And that's where you get the codes too, which is what necessary for the shops to make it easier.
Right.
Yeah, the previews will show the solicits and all that, but also has the diamond code or the publisher code, whatever, to make that facilitation easier. And I know people who read previews. Like, I know people are in the chat, I think we're joking, like, people read that stuff. Yeah, actually, people sift through that.
They want to know.
Yeah.
Especially people who collectors. You got to know what's coming out. Got to know how much to allocate. Like, that becomes a business into it of itself.
And not to mention, how do you, as a person, like just a patron of comics, know what to add to your pull list? You know because of previews. You know because of solicits. That's the point. They want you to go and pre-order books. That is how retailers know how many books to order, because retailers go in blind without you having a pull list.
Yeah, your comicbook.com or Comics Beat solicits for April 2025. That I guess article only exists because previews came out that week.
Yeah.
Charlotte, thank you so much for becoming a channel member. You guys are amazing today. Like, wow, we're not even an hour in. We've had so many channel members. We've had some super chats. Keep sharing the love if you are so inclined. It's a beautiful thing this morning.
Did new stimmies come in or something?
Yeah, hook me up. Let me know where the stimmy's at.
It's not even the indoor inauguration yet, and we're getting the stimmies? Damn.
Electrix says, finally joined Patreon this Tuesday. Hey, thank you so much, Electrix. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to be messaging you after the show. Thank you, dude.
Gonna be real hard not to give him electric powers. That's for sure.
I was thinking about it, or it's just like, damn, what?
He's made of rubber, actually. He's all insulated. Yeah.
That's so good. Electric Boy. Oh, Static Shocker Boy? I don't know.
Oh, I've seen that video.
Tektronic says, what up, hot dogs? Tektronic, dude, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? It's good to see you. Brian Hibbs, one of my favorites. I really want this guy on the show. I've messaged him before. Hasn't worked out. He runs the Comics Experience store out of San Francisco. He says, this is a biting, damning comment, by the way. And I agree with pretty much every fucking word. Pay attention to what I'm about to read. It's important. There are a lot of people who were actively rooting for Diamond Comics to fail. Well, your wishes appear to be coming true as Diamond files for Chapter 11, and this is going to be truly dire news for the direct market, at least in the short and medium term. Say goodbye to most smaller publishers, and so long to the right opportunities for a majority of smaller and unproven creators. Never, ever forget that the blame for this falls directly upon DC Comics, and we should never forget this or ever withhold that blame. My best wishes for Steve Geppi, as well as all of the staff at Diamond, and my most fervent prayers for creators and my fellow retailers that we are all going to be able to navigate this disruption to the market. People, Penguin Random House does not want any accounts smaller than they already have. And Lunar, besides being the primary retail competition for all of us, is really bad at their jobs and, in my personal estimation, could not possibly handle adding more vendors. 2025 is going to be a nightmare. That's a brutal condemnation of what is happening right now.
I wonder, so he says there the account size, right? I wonder if there's because I've had this worry about, especially for the other publishers, even for Diamond, when they were there, they get lumped together as other and they make up X percentage. I wonder if it becomes a need of how do we join together to build up the volume necessary to qualify. Like somehow we become not a joint publisher, but there's a way that you send over as part of the same account in order to conserve volume so that you hit whatever that minimum order amount is. Because Diamond would work with them, but they had the size, they had the scale, so now these other publishers have to get crafty about how they're going to be able to do that.
But again, Diamond had a personal, family-owned, vested interest in the success of every single aspect of comics. Penguin Random House does not. They don't. Yes, they are in the business of distributing Marvel comics. That's fantastic. But guess what? They don't give a fuck about retailers.
Their bread and butter is bookstores.
They don't. Retailers are not on their radar in that regard. They're not going to have grace for retailers. They're not going to have grace for publishers. They don't have a reason to. Diamond did because they were a monopoly, but also because Steve Geppi had relationships with granularly with individual store owners, with publishers, probably even with creators. You cannot replicate that. You can't. That's a big deal.
And Penguin Random House doesn't have a, I guess, ambassador to comic shops, right? Like there's no role for that to fill that Geppi, again, not need, but vacuum, direct contact.
They're a sales company. They got a rep.
Yeah.
But it's more corporate. It's more buttoned up as a company than Diamond. There's not going to be a guy who's willing to say, "Hey, you owe us $50,000, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. Pay us over time or when you can." They're not in that business.
Well, that business didn't work out though. Like,
yeah,
you're right. But what? I'll say it again. What would have happened if Diamond didn't do that? What would have happened to comic book shops who couldn't pay what they owed if Diamond didn't do that?
So Diamond was just an open wound that was festering for a bit, and now we're finally getting complications.
Yeah,
like it kept the body alive. The body was alive and running for years.
It did, but that means that now those companies, like we mentioned earlier, now those retailers are going to feel the effects. Now somebody's going to come knocking at the door.
You're probably right, but are those retailers cursing Steve Geppi right now? No. They're not. Nobody who was allowed to slide on tens of thousands of dollars of owed money is going to look at Steve Geppi now and say, "Fuck you for letting us owe you," just because now the rent is coming due. He's not the one knocking on the door. It's the bank. It's J.P. Morgan.
Yeah.
Or whoever purchases Diamond, and however that process goes.
Damn.
Chop Harder Alchemist says, sounds like Diamond was actually propping things up and keeping this running, but now it's time to pay up for the industry. That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's exactly right. And so my thing is, look, I'm not a bootlicker, but my thing is this. You're going to shit on the company that kept this industry floating, the company that, without much hesitation at all, was solely responsible for the launch of Free Comic Book Day, which has had a huge part to play in the resurgence of comics post 2001. That's the company we're going to shit on. There's good and bad, but for some reason, people want it to be a binary, and it's not. They weren't just bad, and they weren't just good. It's both. Acknowledge both.
It seems to just be like, maybe not the best business decisions across the board.
Okay.
And it sucks. I think it sucks because the Free Comic Book Day thing it's a big deal. When was the first one of that? That was
It was like I said, it was in 2001 or 2.
Okay, yeah. Shub Patel, hello Shub, says Diamond was a necessary evil. It seems like they were benevolent in some things, maybe not necessarily evil, but It's the toll is coming, and it kind of sucks. But I think Steve said capitalism's going to find a way, right?
It's going to have to in this situation.
Zach Pearson says, seems like Diamond fucked around and found out. For years, I heard about how they sucked and had a monopoly, and then DC switched, and Diamond's house of cards fell apart. Well, yeah, I mean, lots of people have talked for years about how Diamond sucked. This isn't a Diamond apology tour. There's good and bad. It just seems like people have like I feel the same way about people who have a vested interest in the idea that comics are going to go away, or that Marvel movies, there's going to be a bubble that bursts. Like, everybody just shut up. Like, you wanting to doomsay and be the person, and I'm not saying this to you, Zach, be the person to say I told you so doesn't make you smart or cool. Everything has good and bad to it. That's life. And you can evaluate one without disregarding the other.
Also, I just saw some relative breaking news. The DIP, the debtor in possession, so that $41 million that is owed, they worked out a financing agreement with JP Morgan, so they have the money now. This was as of literally this morning at 11. They have the money, so it's essentially a loan from JP Morgan that they're going to be able to pay off whatever is necessary to debtors. So ideally, that means alleviation on the front of creditors in the form of, or other debtors in the form of shops.
Which is nice. That's nice. And what did you say the amount was again?
All $41 million.
Okay. So that's great, but Diamond has a list of over 100 debtors. So I believe the total debt is somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 million. I read on Bleeding Cool, I believe. By the way, Rich Johnson, Bleeding Cool, amazing work. Most of what I and we are referencing is coming from them. So hats off, always doing a tremendous job with the reporting. Uh, man, this is fucked.
And then a bank kind of taking over that, like helping with a loan. It's just, again, putting super glue on the wound,
It's a temporary solution.
Yeah.
Who knows what, and the idea is that still has to get paid off to the bank, right? This is an immediate solution, so
With
to
interest.
help with
Yeah.
interest, to help resolve only the debtors that are collecting. So the people that Diamond owes money to, hey, we'll wash your hands of that. Instead of having 100 whatever, now you have only me, JP Morgan.
This feels like those ads you get for, like, oh, you want your paycheck 2 days early? Join. Have our app help you out. It's like, oh no, you're wasting money there. It's helping you in the immediate, but
Cash this check.
yeah.
Chopper Alchemist says, so their debt is 60 million. How much does the industry bring in over a year? I mean, the comic book industry is $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
So somewhere in that neighborhood. But again, Diamond lost their two biggest accounts. The two biggest accounts that exist in comics were lost to Diamond. That is going to have a massive effect. Had DC and Marvel not left Diamond, this wouldn't be happening. There'd be other problems, as there were already, but this would not be happening. And I think the elephant in the room is being ignored, right? Because everybody's saying, oh, well, Diamond deserves this because, they didn't handle their business correctly and stuff like that. Look, monopolies, whenever you have a monopoly, things do tend to get stale after a while. For those of you who are wrestling fans, when the WWE bought out WCW in 2001, we saw the disaster that the WWE would go on to become pretty much until they had real competition, right? So acknowledged. However, to me, the reality is we are looking at a problem that is born out of a situation where you have an industry that doesn't bring in enough money. It doesn't bring in enough money. $1 billion is great, but that's $1 billion spread so far and wide that it's not enough for everybody to eat. And that is a problem that the industry cannot solve. It has not found a way to solve that problem in decades.
Got a couple of super chats here I want to call out. Revolutionary Dragon with the 5 spot says this might be necessary for the industry to innovate in a way they didn't have to before.
Is it innovating though?
I don't know, because the big two don't have to do anything.
Or
And that's where innovation
Lunar,
would really start.
Lunar or Penguin Random House don't really have to do anything.
Sure, yeah, the ones dealing with the big two don't have to do anything. Yeah.
Right. Unless to the point of Brian Hibbs, where it was, Lunar can't handle the new volume. Maybe there's a solution in infrastructure for volume. For Penguin Random House, maybe there's a solution that allows them to accept lower cost orders that are still efficient and effective for them and for their business model. Maybe that's where the innovation comes through. But outside of that, you're handing. This is the failure of one distribution company, and the other companies picking up the slack, and a few other publishers in disarray as to where they should be going.
And by the way, on the subject of Lunar, Brian Hibbs' reaction to Lunar and the biting words he used is a common feeling among retailers. Retailers don't like Lunar because Lunar is actually DCBS.
Right.
And DCBS is a retailer. So Lunar is a distributor, but DCBS, which is Lunar under a different name essentially, is a retailer. So there is a conflict of interest that pisses off a lot of retailers.
It's like a she's my daughter, she's my sister Chinatown moment.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Thank you, Revolutionary Dragon. But I question this idea of innovation. I want to know what the innovation is. It's a very easy word to say. But what is the innovation?
Did you get the other one, Tyler?
No, feel free.
Yeah. Chavez Creed for the $5 spot says, when Hastings folded, we found out that Diamond was letting them build up millions in debt. This stuff is running up the hill. And I mean, it continued. It continued, and that has spread through to even smaller companies than Hastings.
That's that, but that kind of decision to let them owe millions is not a decision that a lot of other companies would make. And people are it's so funny. It's so funny to me. People are saying, "Oh, well that's a bad decision, and it sounds like they were being mismanaged and yada yada yada." So fuck businesses. But when a business makes a decision to help, it's still fuck them. Now it's a bad choice. When a business does something to help, it's bad, but also fuck businesses in general. I don't know if I can't get with that. I can't get with that. If I'm a retailer, I'm not looking at Diamond and going, fuck you for helping me. I'm looking at Diamond and going, thank you for saving me.
Every retailer I've heard complains about Diamond. And then Diamond was potentially letting them slide.
Word, right? Like imagine the retailer that was like, "Yo, Diamond sucks. I can't believe it. Whatever." Oh yeah, but my lights are still on.
I have an article in front of me of many retailers who don't say fuck Diamond. I have an article in front of me of retailers who are saying we need Diamond. Everybody complains about everybody, but that doesn't change the importance of something. I could complain about Marco, but Marco's vital. Just because I could say, oh, whatever, doesn't mean that I don't need Marco.
Marco's funny. Marco's,
I'm still gonna say
really
fuck Marco.
Time. He's got really good timing on jokes.
Zach Pearson says not shipping damaged books or shipping them on time. By the way, Lunar has that problem too. By the way, Penguin has that problem too. It's not unique to Diamond. I have personally gotten on this show and read articles that are published on Bleeding Cool primarily that have retailers in them talking shit about the way their packages have been received.
Yeah,
Right.
Comic Booms here says when there was only Diamond, there was only one distributor to complain about.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why monopolies are bad, though, because then you can't really there's no incentive for them to change practices or make changes that retailers would like. Because, like, all right, where are they going to go to? Now that they have multiple people to go to, they can't even make those changes because now they're underwater.
Hmm.
There's no middle ground, really. Was there ever a time where Diamond was either a monopoly or underwater? There was no like real competitive middle ground where they can innovate and do all that stuff. It's like no, they got thrown in the deep end.
Yeah. Yeah, and now that you have now that you have the competition, right? They've been thrown to the deep end, and the expectation is, oh, cool, competition's good. It is, can be, and in this case, the monopoly and the structure they're in was ultimately leading to a bad place, but it was was requisite. It was necessary, and now that it's split out between two, that need that thing that was helping the industry is gone, and now there will be repercussions for that.
And let me just stop this in the chat first. Charlotte says, so Marco isn't just here for his pretty face. Charlotte,
Hey,
Marco's head's already big enough. Let's
make it bigger.
let's keep him. It's too early for this for Marco, all right?
Yeah, my headphones are stretching out actually.
Thanks, Cole, for becoming a channel member. Appreciate that. I would love to see some pals heads in the chat. All this talking.
I gotta
I haven't seen any pals heads.
I gotta make Marco's pal's head a little bigger than all the other ones.
Yeah. Where are the minions? Where are the minions at? Give me a Marco face and a little googly eye.
I want to read a comment from ComiCon. So ComiCon says Diamond had the main role in creating Free Comic Book Day in 2002, based on a suggestion by Joe Joe Wheeler. I can't remember his name. He owns Flying Colors Comics. Um, it continues to be the organizing force for the day. It says it's exploring contingencies for the event in the future. Diamond had supplied a lot of information about comic sales, and its monopoly status made it possible for Comic-Con to closely report how many comics Diamond sent to market. No one else reports. Diamond stopped monthly reports in April 2022, ending a long era of transparency. But even in this latter period, Diamond was sorting and shipping more different comics than ever before due to the vast number of variants. If only as a wholesaler for companies like Marvel and Image, Diamond still ran weekly reorder reports, which Comic-Con still shares. So there we talk about how we don't have the financials, the sales numbers for comics anymore. We have to rely on shit like Bleeding Cool's reports from 20 some odd stores and, all that kind of stuff. We lost that once Diamond ceased to be a monopoly because other retailers or other distributors and the publishers have no vested interest in sharing their numbers. So if you are a retailer, how do you know how hot a book is other than what people come in to buy from you? How can you tell? You don't know.
You can only know for your store. And even then, you have to do all that manually.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
If you could have a hot seller with, say, G.I. Joe, just to say a random book that's right next to me, but it hasn't sold like hotcakes in your particular store, but other stores are selling it really amazingly. That would tell you, okay, maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we need to display it differently. Maybe we need to talk it up. Whatever we need to do. But when you don't have those analytics, you can't make those kinds of decisions. You're flying by the seat of your pants. That's never good in any business.
Damn, we need a unified data storage house.
Jay Sage with the 499 says people hear Monopoly and hop on their soapboxes. I get it, but this seems more nuanced. Also, people don't respond as previews. They're so fun. I completely agree with you, man. Everybody has a hot take. Everybody thinks they're a business major. The reality is that this is not as simple as Amazon saying we want to be the number one business in the world and dominate the market and push everybody else out. That is literally not what Diamond did. That's not what they set out to do. It's what happened because the industry was falling apart.
And I'm not going to hate on Diamond. I have a vested interest in Diamond. They put out the Muppets Diamond Select action figures, and I have a couple pre-orders I need to make sure I go through. I am
Make sure
pro
that they
Diamond here. I need my Sweetums action figure. Okay.
get fulfilled. James Jones says this is a good, nuanced discussion. I'm hoping we're not looking at day one tariff on Canadian goods. Otherwise, this could be a really bad perfect storm for the industry. Tune in next week for day one.
That's true. That's next week, right?
That's next week. Dude.
Yeesh. Yeah, all right.
Back to back.
Well, we won't be posting on TikTok at least.
Damn, and that was our biggest social platform too.
For
in this
real.
forum.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what. Yeah,
I think we're okay.
I have faith.
I
If
think
not,
TikTok's
we have Red Note now, guys. And
Oh,
Fuck
xiao-
that.
小姐还问过谢谢我有冰淇淋
Yo, there's been mad fucking. I'm on that.
I just
thing
confused Sean by busting out Mandarin.
Were those real words?
Oh yeah. I know the John
okay.
Cena Bing Chilling ad. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just got bored one day.
And we're committed to memory.
Catherine here with us. Thank you for making it. Appreciate that. King Taichi says my local shop was not aware that Absolute Wonder Woman was going to sell as much as Batman and Superman, so they did not order as many issues. We saw that problem with the Ultimate line, where people were unaware of how big it was going to be, so they under-ordered, and people weren't able to get Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, on and on. That's the kind of shit that happens. When you don't have a central person or group telling you, hey, this is what's hot. This is what you need. Young Dende says, looking back on it, Diamond's business model really shouldn't have lasted as long as it did, but it's proof that you sometimes have to put the screws to smaller shops and get your money. Is it? Is it proof of that? Because again, this wouldn't be happening if DC and Marvel didn't leave Diamond. I'm not judging them. That's what they chose to do. I'm just stating a fact. This wouldn't have happened if they didn't do that. It would still have happened if Diamond collected money from every retailer that owed them. They owe somewhere in the realm of $60 million. If they bought every retailer and was able to accrue every dollar that those retailers are worth, it wouldn't sniff that tune of money.
Yeah.
Forget about what they owe Diamond. If they owned those businesses, if they sold them for everything they're worth, it wouldn't come close. This is way, way, way bigger than being owed a few $1,000s from some rinky-dink company in Minnesota. Way bigger than that.
Yeah. Right. Like, what is that going to amount to in the long haul? Like, maybe they scoop up like $1 million collectively across 2,000 distributors, 2,000 retailers rather.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. We just got paid 41 million from JP Morgan. We got that loan. Now we need 20 something.
And where's that coming from? You won't get that from all the retailers that exist collectively. I already read that. Ben Loudly says the same could be said of the entire LCS business model. Again, the LCS business model exists because the prior form of comic book distribution was failing. Grocery stores, doctors' offices, newsstands, they were already pulling out of comics. A lot of people don't understand that. The LCS is another necessity. If you want to call it a necessary evil, I guess feel free. But it's another thing that was necessary for comics to continue to grow. Imagine if comic books had never moved away from the newsstand. How many newsstands do you come across in your daily life?
Word.
I barely leave the house. Once I got
There it
newsstands
is.
in my local bar, I'm good.
Digital reader out here.
Yeah. I mean, what is newsstand nowadays though? It's like it's Cash Wrap at Target. It's a Barnes and Noble. Like Bodega doesn't really have it. You know, the deli doesn't really have a newsstand. They have newspaper, places, but newsstand in general doesn't really exist.
I had that thought. Somebody earlier in the chat posted, just put them in weed shops. But then I had the thought of like, okay, like my deli, like the deli around the corner. Maybe there's a kid that walks into it. Like, are you gonna buy a comic there? Maybe, but then what's the cost associated? It would have to be a different kind of distribution model where somebody as a retailer purchases those and then forms a direct relationship with somebody like a deli. They have the book and goes, "Hey, here's like 5 copies of something. Maybe you sell it, maybe you don't. Maybe they make their return."
That ain't keeping up an industry though.
No, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I'm saying that, like the that's the only new way of distribution I can think is you further fragment that.
And man, the comics industry has a lot of problems, and there aren't a lot of solutions to those problems. You can't get floppies in Barnes and Noble. It's not happening. It's just not happening. You can't get like regular weekly floppies in something like Target, even Dollar Tree. I know DC has a relationship with them. Those aren't new books. They're
Right.
not new books. There is no other way. Like paper paper uh magazines are just not in vogue. Fucking New York Times will give they'll pay you to take their fucking paper at this point. Like we're talking about something that is going it probably shouldn't even exist anymore if you go by the way the rest of the world is operating. Comic books have managed to withstand the test of time because of passion. Diamond had passion for comics. Penguin Random House does not.
It only exists still because nostalgia and collectors. That's what fuels people wanting to buy floppies.
Because of people like you. Was that the audience? Thank you very much for buying
All right.
comics.
Yeah, we need to add 3D capabilities. That'd be
Yeah,
a great.
that's right. I gotta
great
reach
bait
out
for it. Yeah.
and shake your hand.
Put your
Thank you so
glasses
much.
on. I'll put on alert.
Yeah.
Uh, Silhouette says no kid gonna buy a damn comic nowadays. People don't even like to read, and they don't even have to because so many other things are out there. That's a problem. That's a competition that didn't exist in the 90s and 80s. There was nothing else to do.
Kids can't drive. Like you can't. It used to be you can bump into a comic book. You can't. You have to go and seek out comic books if you want that. And kids can't do that. They get their parents to do it.
Yeah, I feel like the idea of kids walking the streets is
Yeah,
gone.
it's
Like,
instant gratification. It's I don't even want people don't even want to buy physical video games anymore. It's digital. I want to download it and have it ready immediately.
well, to that point, even right. Like I feel like more kids used to play in the street. Like there was more of an acceptance to being outside as opposed to indoors. That I don't see as much, and maybe that's just because I don't have kids, but it feels different. Like blocks feel different.
100%. I mean, dude, when we were growing up, come on. Like even like the generations before us, our generation, parents used to say just go out. Like
Yeah,
just go somewhere, go to the park, go fucking play.
get out of here.
That's not how it is anymore. We're
When
reclusive people now.
when I got grounded as a kid, my dad would force me out of the house. My punishment was going out to play with my friends because I was too busy making fake Neopets websites and hacking accounts for Neopoints.
Shadow Walker says it sounds like saying if only DC and Marvel continued to accept subpar products, then Diamond could have continued their unsustainable business model. I mean, it feels like you're intent on assigning blame and being in the binary of right or wrong. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in talking about the reality beyond right and wrong. And the fact is that this would not be happening if DC and Marvel didn't leave Diamond. I'm not saying they were wrong to leave Diamond. I am saying it's a fact that it wouldn't be happening if they hadn't left Diamond. And I hope I don't have to keep repeating that point, but it is a fact. That's it. Uh, let's see. What else do we have? Pete Foltz says, "Why you got to come from Minnesota?" I'm not. I love Minnesota. I mean, I don't actually. I've never been there in my life, but I would like to go.
Yo, Minnesota catching strays. Pete's like, yo, why you targeting me, bro?
Well, I think we know why. Blood feud.
That's right.
Blade blood feud.
Pseudo Panda says, "Physical versus digital just isn't a comparison to me." They service different needs. But if you like collecting, having the physical pieces of art and the hunt, then digital doesn't do anything for that. You're totally right. Uh, Digital has 10% market penetration, roughly. People have made their choice. Digital has been available as an option for like 14 years, and people have decided, at least in the comic space, that they don't want that. Um, so we are in an industry and we have a market base that doesn't want change. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't. I don't.
And to that, the potential market that would is reading webtoons, reading manga online. They who have had that digital experience and are integrated into the digital experience are not then shifting over to Western and Americanized comics. They stick to manga. They stick to their Shonen Jump. They stick to the webtoons. There hasn't been that crossover quite yet. Um, and then young no, who was it? I just missed it. Matt Cosmo says, "Do we know if these DC compacts are sold in Scholastic book fairs or comics period?"
I don't believe so. The
Yeah.
comics, the period don't. It's you're gonna see more like the the YA stuff. Like maybe like that Beast Boy Gabriel Piccolo book might be in something like that, but that's gonna be like Dogman Captain Underpants, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, DC compacts are not largely not
You
for
want to give
children.
a 9-year-old Watchman?
Imagine.
Actually, that might cause revolutions.
You know what? I was at a bookstore the other day, and I came by the YA section. I'll keep like a pulse on that sometimes, and I was like, should I get this Dogman book? Should I like just see what it's about? And then I walked away. I picked up a good old what did I get? Oh, I got Will Eisner Best of the Spirit.
Great book to be in a Scholastic book fair.
Yeah, hey, maybe.
Pete Collins says digital also has a much better profit margin for these companies. Removing print and distribution costs, the situation could push an improved evolution to digital comic distribution. But let's say that happens. Until you can get Marvel and DC at least on the same page to be on an app, like a Netflix style streaming service, the fabled streaming service we've always talked about. Until that happens, you don't have anything. You have nothing. You have bupkis.
Do you think it needs to be a joint app?
Yes,
Do you
I
think
do.
if one of two other things? Do you think if they drop the price of digital to be cheaper than physical, or day and date happen, you don't think that's enough?
No,
Uh,
I don't think so.
enough in what sense?
To make people go shift
Oh,
digitally. I think if day and date happens I think if you do that at the same time, day and date, and it's cheaper, then that's the end. I think people are used to multiple apps at this point. They hate it, but they're used to it. Um, but like if they do those two things that comic shops do not want them to do, that doesn't that's not a good sign for
I-
physical.
if it if it's day and date, for something like the DCU app, that'd be clutch. It would make my subscription go that much more that much further, but that means that my subscription is going that much further. The amount that I've spent is uh better is more economical for me, not more economical for the business. And so I think that that is a balance that they have to toe the line for is how economical is it for the consumer and how much am I getting out of that?
Well, it might be more economical for them if they're not having to deal with Amazon.
No, but still, how many incremental sales are you making even with Amazon?
Sure, yeah, that we'd have to know. Do I'm wondering if do publishers have numbers? I know we don't have numbers, but publishers should have numbers, right?
Numbers of what? Sales?
Of sales, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
100%. I think digital, the price of a digital comic being lower is something that I don't even know would help the industry because I think it would it could cause people to buy less physical books. I don't think it will result in more people buying digital books. Like not a sizable difference because I truly believe that the industry has made its choice as far as like how do we want to read comics. There is a non-negligible amount of people who buy comics strictly to collect them, and buying comics is a ritual for many of us more than it is just something we do, you know? And so I don't know what impact that will have. Um, but again, even if like let's say 50% of the current readership of comics goes digital. 50%. All that does is murder retailers. It doesn't increase the amount of money in the market because there aren't more people reading comics. That is what we have to get to. And if we can't get to that, none of this matters.
Yeah, the balance really comes into the people you lose from that won't buy digitally is the people you gain that can buy digitally enough to make up or increase readership, which I don't think it's there.
Hmm. Is
Jaws on YouTube. Jaws on YouTube, I guess. Should publishers print comics on crappy paper that's cheap in order to sell them in non-LCS stores to get new readers, and also print them on regular paper to keep the readers they do have satisfied?
No, we're so used to quality at this point. You're also affecting colors when you choose different paper, and there's such a improvement to coloring in general that to do that you're working backwards. You're working backwards, and you're going to tell me that you're going to charge the same amount potentially. That's not value.
Hot take. I think I prefer it printed on newsprint. I like the tactile feel more.
But
You
let's
can't.
say they
Digital
do
will not
that.
look as good on that. Like
But
digital art.
but
Yeah.
let's say they do that, right? And you're still paying, the Hickman tax on whatever.
I just put up a poll. Would you switch to digital reading if it was cheaper? I want everybody to answer this poll. I want us to be able to gather concrete, unimpeachable data right now that we can send all across the industry to answer the question: would you switch to digital reading if it was cheaper?
From our very varied listenership, that definitely doesn't just read DC Comics.
Absolutely. Cosmo, wow, dude, I am so happy to see you here, man. That's awesome. Cosmo says an excuse to go to the shop is a huge part of reading weekly for me. I don't know about everyone else. I just love being in there and hearing what people are digging each week. And I think that that is, I mean, I don't think it. I know it. That is a majority of comic book readers. That is their preferred way to read comics.
and
Right now, the poll is 50-50, which is
yeah,
phenomenally
yeah.
interesting.
And I think we talked about it on the membership video. So and members check that out. Uh, but the ritual aspect of weekly comics, I think, is important that you lose with digital. Even though Sean has horror stories most of the weeks, it is still ritual for you, and I don't think you would trade it for anything else.
I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything else, and I would not read comics if they were not physically available.
That
Which,
that was
yeah,
honestly the the thing that I missed the most from moving to digital is, damn, I miss talking to people, and that started, pandemic. I'd still go pick up comics. I was mostly switching to digital at some point, but that ritual is, I went into the city, like just for that.
Yeah.
uh Samuel Summers, $2. Thank you so much. Says I read digital and buy physical.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there are people like that too who, I mean, I know Tyler will go to the shop for this or that, like a particular book that's meaningful. Marco seems to do that every now and then. So there are those hybrids. They do exist.
But it's a special occasion. It's because All In has started.
It's exactly what the
it's
last
on
time I bought one was All In. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or an absolute title, right? Otherwise, I have the accessibility here. I'm not gonna necessarily spend the time.
Yeah. Mr. Funiverse says digital reading is already cheaper. You can get any comic for free day of release. The physical experience would have to be much, much worse for the entire ritual of it all to not be worth it. I agree. Like, yes, definitely it is possible to read any comic that comes out for free. We all know that. We make the choice not to do that because, we don't want to be scumbags. Um, and we want to support what we're choosing to engage with. And, I think that's certainly valid. Um, don't get it twisted though. Not everybody feels that way. And there are people who would say, oh, well, if I can't get my books physically anymore, I'm just going to read comics for free because I don't care about digital. I can't own them because there's no DRM free digital books anymore. So I'm just going to pirate. That will happen. I mean,
that
it
is a
already
fact,
does.
Cole says I paid $509 digital versus $599 physical for Ultimate Wolverine. I missed the LCS ritual, but I had to let it go. There are small cost savings that add up. That was a big plus to the Comixology, which is now in the Kindle ecosystem. So
Yeah.
A huge momentum shift.
Which Sean is using to its full advantage.
Yo, Pete
Your
here said-
savings is Sean's loss, actually. I think you guys are evening out.
somewhere around there. Pete Collins said if the cost of a digital version are less than half a printed unit and they lose 50% of physical readers to a transition to digital, they'd essentially be coming even, right? But if you just look at the poll as well, let's assume they lose 50% of physical readers. Of those 50%, there are people, and we have the vote going. It's at what, 51% right now? So you're cutting that in half as well. You're cutting that in half again.
And you're
Right.
not also factoring in different buying habits.
Right.
This could be someone who has 2 books on their pull list. It could be a whale that buys every book. So that doesn't. It's not complete math.
Right. And on top of that, you're not factoring in things like people who pay for variant covers, which is a huge, it is a massive amount of money. The amount of times that I have purchased more than one copy of a comic just because I wanted a variant, and I'm not a whale. I'm a minnow at best.
Maybe
Okay.
Barracuda.
Sorry?
Barracuda, maybe.
Whatever. Call me whatever you want. I am a small piece of that puzzle. But what about the Atomic Hounds of the world who will, buy multiple copies of Absolute Batman to get the variants and not just the $3.99 for $5.99 ones, the ones that are $20, $30, $40, $50 and more.
Well, I think, Sean, when you accidentally buy the second printing of things, that really helps, the comic industry as a whole. So
Look, I'm doing my part even when I don't mean to. I'm activated. Comic Boom says Sean touches on a major problem: piracy. Try to convince a potential new reader to spend $4.99 on a 22-page comic. Absolutely, the value proposition is not there. It's not, but we all know that. I buy comics knowing that because I want the experience. Like we read Ultimate Wolverine #1 this week. I'm pretty sure it was $5.99. And that's a lot of fucking money. Okay? That's a lot of money. You can do a lot with $5.99, kind of. Shit, you could get a subscription to this channel for less than that. You could become a patron for less than that. But I buy it without thinking about it because I am happy with the experience that I'm getting provided. Now, when I talk shit, it's because I hated the experience that I had and it cost me an arm and a leg. But you can't tell a 20-year-old person who doesn't give a shit about comics but loves manga, hey, let me tell you what you could do. Instead of buying those manga that you spend just $10 on for a full volume, you could buy this copy of Storm for $3.99. For nearly half the cost of that volume you just purchased, you could buy 22 pages of story. The value proposition is disgustingly bad.
This is a almost luxury product.
I would
It
argue
is,
it
it
is
is.
absolutely a
Yeah.
luxury product. But I would choose less other things than like I would choose to forego other things than to buy less comics. I'd rather buy less video games. I buy way less video games than I buy comics. I get like a couple of games a year, pretty much at this point.
A video game purchase at full retail cost is a decision I need to make.
Yeah.
Comics just is like, all right, I'll
you
see
go.
what the total is. I don't see the individuals.
But by the way, that video game is way more of a value proposition than a comic.
100%. Especially with me, like I play a lot of live service video games where it's either a subscription or it's free with microtransactions. That I can balance that easier and I can justify stuff like that a lot easier for the amount of time I spend in it. Like Marvel Rivals, I keep talking about it, but like that's a free game. I spent $10 in it and I have 200 something hours in it. Like look at that amount of value compared to that would have made me, that's 30 minutes in comic money. If I'm spending on average 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is probably me pouring through a book. That's not just a normal read.
And that also presumes that you keep that comic. My comic purchases are ephemeral. I will take a book, I'll read it, and then I give it away.
Mine are digital. They're the most ephemeral thing.
They were never tangible.
They're gone as soon as I get an alert that my storage is running low. You know?
Oh, you don't back. Oh, you can't back up.
I mean, you could back up, but if this I'll put it in the cloud. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Steve Canaris. Oh, sorry. Steve Canaris says piracy is not 100% loss. It exposes people to the product they cannot afford, but may eventually afford. I'm not calling it a good thing, but there are complexities, and that's always been the case. But it is about facilitating that transition, and comics don't address that directly, and so there is no facilitation to be able to say, hey, I now that you know you've read, you know you've kept up with this is now your time to switch over.
Jay Sage with a £4.99. Thank you, Jay. I feel like nerds by default are collectors. Figures, manga, floppies. Even if you think you don't start to buy, you won't stop. I have 100 plus in 1 year. Yeah, I mean a lot of the stuff that like, you know, nerds, I guess, like is stuff that is to be collected, you know, hobbyist type stuff.
How else are you gonna fill the emotional void?
That's true. How else are you gonna force yourself to forget the times that you were stuffed in the locker in middle school and high school without comics?
It's like I just bought a Titania Marvel Legends action figure. I opened that up. I looked at the articulation, and I finally didn't hear the voices in my head.
There's also an aspect of I'm a completionist, and so I like to ensure that I'm starting from like a number one. So I've had this here. I've had this for years, with the presumption that one day, man.
What is it?
That.
What
It's
volume?
Spawn, volume 1. This is just the first couple issues. I've made it. Oh, look,
Man.
I have a little card here.
See, me, a
I've
real
made it-
Spawn head, knows that you could probably just read that right now if you wanted to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I've made it maybe half an issue, but there's the aspect of me as well. Of like I want to hold on until I read this. I want to experience these things, and that's why the stuff is so backed up, is because I have so much that I want to read.
You need to hurry up and read that shit and pass it to me, bro.
Yo, that's so much. Yeah, look at this. Look at this.
Charlotte in chat says, a guy into comics is a huge green flag. I don't know. It seems like he might be bad with his money.
When did I get this? When was this? Is this even good? I have no idea.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes. Very good.
Oh, I'm talking to nothing right now. It's good rogue stuff, Marco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ben Loudly with the 5 spot. You spoke of variance, and I've always wanted to know how much of industry sales percentage-wise are driven by variant cover market. Any estimates? I mean, that would certainly be tough for us to come up with a number for. But I will tell you that variant covers make up a lot of what is selling. You could talk about the double dippers who are just buying the regular variants like myself, but then again, there are the people who are buying, like, let's say your shop wants to have like you know, the special GI Joe covers, the ones that make Baroness look really great, the ones that I was thirsting over last night on the show.
Goon covers, as we're coining it.
Fair
Yeah.
play. They might need to order to get that variant. Let's say it's a 1 of 25, for example. The way that translates is you got to order 25 copies of this main cover, or potentially cover B's and C's, the base priced covers, to get access to purchasing one copy of the special Baroness Schooner cover that you really want. So what then happens is you buy all those copies of G.I. Joe, you get your one copy of the cover you want, and then you price that at, let's say, $75. Some thirst bucket comes into your store and purchases that cover for $75. Theoretically, that makes up for all the G.I. Joe covers that you had to buy, and then it also gives you a little bit of extra cheese on top of the fact that you get to sell the regular G.I. Joe covers that you bought.
Essentially makes the ones that you bought to get that variant cover free stock for you that you can then make off the top if you sell it.
Right. That is absolutely correct. The scammy part comes in when you consider the fact that because of that, we don't necessarily have an idea of how many people are actually buying G.I. Joe. Because some of them are buying 2, 3 copies. Some of them are buying the slutty cover. So many people are doing different things. We don't know how many families G.I. Joe is feeding if you just go off of the regular non-incentive variant covers.
I'm trying to go to the shop later, get a goon cover of that rogue book.
You mean a cover?
Right.
Well, that Daughterman
Uncanny.
one, I get it.
Go ahead. Uncanny Suit with the 199 says, I read new digital and old stuff physical. That almost feels backwards, but I get it.
That makes sense.
That's what Jay Sage earlier with the 199 super chat said the same thing. I read new physical and old stuff digital. Wait, he does the opposite.
Right.
To each their own, man. Everyone, I love the breadth of experience for these things.
I'm on Uncanny side. I read the weekly stuff digital, but I will get collected omnibuy, omnibuses, trades and stuff like that physically.
I see, but I know those things are just gonna be like shelf porn.
That's why I have it, Marco.
No,
It's to impress the people that come over. They're like, oh, you read Sandman? Oh wait, maybe not. Hold on.
Whoops.
Oh, my leather-bound Sandman things just went down in the market.
I thought it was an investment. No.
Oop.
Atomic Hound with the 999. Thank you, Atomic Hound. And thank you for showing up. I was worried that you weren't here. Here's some irony. I just received a physical copy of Superman Birthright Deluxe Edition for being a subscriber to DC Universe Infinite Ultra. That tells me they don't intend to stop physical soon, completely. I don't think that DC or Marvel would be wise to stop physical comics. I personally don't think that thought ever crosses the minds of anybody in a position of power at the big two.
Especially when it comes to collecteds. I think they are in the long term invested in collected stuff. That includes omnibus, bussies, artist editions, absolute editions. That's a whole separate discussion from the direct market.
Man, I wish I committed to the Ultra.
Yeah, send a picture of that. I'm curious.
It's because I think it's 89 for the regular and like 150 something for Ultra. I have to look back. Damn, but if they send you stuff like that, that's awesome.
Marvel Unlimited has like the year subscription too. They give you like a box that has a Marvel Legends action figure, usually like an exclusive variant, some pins and a patch. I've gotten a couple of those.
Yeah, well, Cale owns the account, so I mooch off his Marvel and he mooches off my DC.
Double mooching.
It's circle jerk.
Hecatron says, I highly dislike how much the thirst of lonely men has been propping up the industry with those awful covers and then tags it for some bizarre reason with no offense, Sean. First of all, Hecatron, I am not lonely, okay? Second of all, I don't actually buy that. I don't buy any Gunnar covers. I don't think I have a variant that I purchased that was like an expensive variant that I bought for that reason.
Do you have Dampen Ocean's Wonder Woman Absolute #1?
Yeah, but that was a Gunnar. I have it
You,
right here.
It's a little gooner.
Oh, it's not.
A
What?
little gooner.
It's literally not.
Do you pull Red Sonja monthly?
Yes, I do. How is this Gunnar?
Hey, you pull what monthly, Sean?
Red Sonja. This isn't Gunnar at
I
all.
guess
It's
it's not,
perfectly
no.
normal. It's just a cool cover.
It's what was that, like a proposed AI art that some people were saying online?
Let me just show off all three of my sick ass fucking
goon
variants.
shower. Let's go.
While we're at
Don't
it.
commit goonicide. Okay.
Yeah, Hecatron, I don't fit that bill. Although I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying, for sure. Yeah, Gavin Gidry says Gambit is shirtless and Rogue is wearing nothing, but one of his shirts in a good bit of this issue of X-Men, though. Well, not to get too far off topic, but like, come on, sexiness is absolutely a part of
Sure.
superheroes. They're not. You cannot remove them from each other.
Watch the most recent episode of yesterday's Pals Pulse to see Sean open up Storm #5 or whatever.
Ooh.
4, I think.
4.
And yeah, I had a moment.
Go read all of Rogue Savage Land.
Charlotte says not enough thirst covers for women. You know what? I agree.
Where's
It-
Kevin Wada?
At least that Rogue Savage Land cover does have Kazar and Magneto just missing clothing in random spots. Like Magneto's chest is the only thing without
That's right.
like clothing, and it's just the most bare-chested, hairy man stuff ever.
Jabez Creed with the $5 says thirst traps for the Lonely Hearts Club. There are plenty tastefully done at regular price. I feel that.
Sex sells.
I don't think there's a problem with I detest what variants do to the industry, but if we're just talking art, I don't think there's a single problem with thirst trapping. Like, fucking, who cares?
Yeah, it's something anecdotal, but I feel like a lot of manga and anime, as much as it still sometimes has fan service, there are a lot of readers and a lot of watchers who don't want that in their content anymore. And I feel like growing up, that was that was sometimes a draw for certain series was the inclusion, but there's like an active voice against it now to some degree, and creators still included obviously because they're going to include whatever they want to do, but from what I've read in the past, what I've read currently, it has diminished.
We are undergoing a wave worldwide of conservatism and uh what's the word, prudishness, that people are complaining about sex in
Yeah.
movies and TV shows.
And I say, shut up, nerd.
Agreed. And it's equal opportunity. Like, I'm all about the idea that there could be a sexy like Wolverine cover or Nightwing.
Yeah.
Nightwing he's the guy for that. Like, I think that's great too. Like, if it brings men into the fold, theoretically it could bring women into the fold. If a woman wants to pay $50 for a sexy Nightwing cover, I don't give a fuck if his ass is out. Put him in some chaps. Put that shit out there, and I guarantee it will sell.
I've seen Catherine put some bucks down on some Gambit stuff. She's in the chat.
Easy.
I know what it's doable. She's talking about it.
Where's the Nightwing swimsuit calendar?
Marco, there's a whole Nightwing butt comic coming out.
Yeah, I can't wait. Dude.
Nothing
Young
but
Den-
Nightwing or something like that.
Young Dende says Dick Grayson's ass cheeks have put somebody through college. That's what I'm hearing.
Probably.
Hey,
I mean, does Tom Taylor have children?
Yeah.
It put his fucking kids through college. That ass. I'm talking about Nightwing's ass, not calling Tom Taylor an ass.
Well, he might have. Who knows?
Chop Harder Alchemist with a comment that really resonates with me. For me, the ritual has become an important part of getting through each week in regards to my mental health and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, this work stuff sucks, but at least I get a new issue of Ultimates on Wednesday. Dude, I am lockstep there with you, brother. I don't know what my life would be, or if I'd have a life at all, if it wasn't for comics. Getting into them at the time that I did, I needed this, and it definitely has helped me over the years. There have been many days where the only thing that got me through the week was comics. So that resonates with me a lot. And I think that's a decent place to kind of ramp this conversation down. We're talking about, we're talking about all this money stuff. We're talking about, big industry things that are larger than us. But at the end of the day, this comes down to individual people going to their shop because they love this shit and buying comics, or picking up their phone and getting them digitally, however you get your books. That's what this is about. And this is about not letting that go away. I want Diamond to succeed. I do not want Diamond to fail. But I want them to succeed, not because I know and love Steve Jeppy. I don't fucking know him. I want them to succeed because I recognize the role they play in this industry's overall success. They should succeed in conjunction with Lunar, in conjunction with everybody. Everybody should succeed. That's what I want. So let's not be so hasty to jump on a bandwagon of hate and waving the flag that we're losing Diamond because you don't know what you are actually celebrating when you say that. We need to be hoping that Diamond finds a solution and can make changes that will help them grow and sustain their business positively, while the rest of the industry does the same and figures out a way to operate in this new climate that will allow everybody to succeed, and for us, the audience, to continue to get what we love every single Wednesday. That should be the point. And that's my point. Whew. Figure drawing says, regarding your poll, reading online for free is common. I know many pros who partake. On that note, it's a wonder why any comic shops exist. Kudos to comic print media not being dead, and it's not dead because of us. It's not dead because we're not willing to let that happen, and we want comics.
In physical.
Yeah, in physical, exactly. I'll go ahead and end that poll now. It went the way I thought it would, but not as much of a landslide. Would you switch to digital reading if it was cheaper? 55% said no.
Wow.
44% said yes.
I did not expect half. Yeah, I expected at minimum 60, a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it is consumable in so many ways that as our audience is online, they have that predisposition.
For sure. For sure. Like, our audience doesn't represent the vast swath of comic book readers, but I think it's a good thing if people say they would be willing to go the digital route, because it means that there could be something to maintain if the rest of us were to fall back. Like I said, I would be one of those people who would fall back.
Sure.
Entertain me with the $10. I get what you're saying. Lots of people complained about sextile appeal. Lots of female characters have become more tomboy, as in you rarely see them in dresses or skirts unless at a party or club. And yeah, and I say to that, I say, we can have both. We can have incredibly well written women characters who bring a lot to the table, who are as important and relevant as any other character. The gender of the character shouldn't matter. But when it comes to sex appeal, I think that you can get sex appeal from men and women. One of my biggest questions, my whole life of hearing about this issue is like, well, Jean Grey certainly is sexy. And there certainly have been times where I would say she's been sexualized.
Hmm.
But I would make the same argument about Cyclops. Like his physical body is aspirational for men. And there are certainly women who look at his physical body and say, "Wow, that's what I would like to be with."
I say just read a Leah Williams comic. She does the best of both worlds there. They're
Yeah.
sexy and they're actually, they're good art as well, and the characters have agency and all that. I think we're just in an age where we have creators that understand that, and it's implicit in a lot of the media now.
Yeah, and I think also like the tomboy or like the dressing more mask as opposed to femme, like that is also changing. And so there is appeal in both senses now. That if anything, that circle has expanded to encompass any kind of um any kind of sex appeal.
Right. Yeah.
Yo, muscle mommies over the pandemic, bro. That was wild.
Do you have more to say on that?
Yeah,
No, that was.
no. Let's go deeper, Marco. Let's unpack that.
Were you not getting like constantly fed just like a lean beef patty? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
know you're I know you're talking. I know you're talking. I
yo,
get you.
hot dude, and
Good JPEG Mafia song too.
Yeah, yo, she tear me apart gladly.
She's like 5'1", dude. I don't think it's gonna happen.
She weighs like probably 180 of pure muscle.
It's turning into
Oh,
Gooner
man.
Show, Sean. Let's readjust.
Yeah.
let's
Marco's
get
taking this.
back on track.
Marco's about to go to a coffee shop and regret it.
Hecatron with a 4.99 says this is his first super on a lot. Dude, I love to see. I'm so glad YouTube shows that. Everybody drop a pal's head, please, for Hecatron's first super on a live stream. Thank you so much for dropping that here with us. He says, love the nuanced convo today. I don't think the answer is digital or physical. It's a yes and situation that needs to embrace both audiences. 1000%. I would scream it if I could. You are absolutely right. I am anti-digital for my life, but not for the industry. I think it's great that we have that option. 100%.
Yo, everybody call me out on my For You page,
Yeah,
bro.
you just expose yourself, dude.
I know. Yo, Dex Baker, nah, man, that's your algorithm. Yo, chill, Harris. I'm gonna check that out.
I can't even talk. I will never reveal what's on my For You page. That's I'll
Yeah,
tell you
that's-
guys after
that-
the show.
I'd be embarrassed. Yo, Ekatron, Marco got my algorithm, my algo, I guess. That's it, brother.
All right, listen, let's all open our phones.
We're not doing
Right.
that, Sean.
Let's go to our For You page
We're
and
not
just
doing
show whatever's there. How
No,
about that?
we're
over
not
here?
doing it. Mine is going to be the worst thing to possibly happen. Oh God.
Let me see. Let me see.
Okay,
let me
no,
see.
mine. As soon as I opened it up, was a bikini that was knitted. It was like a crocheted bikini to look like boobs and a vagina. This is why. And then it's also like people eating gross stuff and then people getting hurt. I am in therapy. I'll be okay, guys. Just so you know, it's interesting
I'd,
start to the year.
Tattoo artist
Unreal.
on mine.
Yeah, I bet you do. How many tattoos you got again, Marco? You're a big tattoo guy, right?
Yeah, big tattoo guy.
Yeah,
I only have 2, but
I know.
trying to get more. I want at least like 6.
Damon Watson says physical books perpetuate the aspect of the hobby where we get our books signed. There's something special about not only having a tangible book, but some physical connection to the creation process. Dude, first of all, I haven't seen your name before. Thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for saying that. That is so important. I want to do an episode one day where we celebrate why physical comics are so important. Like that, like what would ComiCon look like if there were no physical books? Like, what the fuck would you go get signed?
You'd buy prints, because there's
But
a lot of
Jonathan Hickman
digital.
doesn't sell prints.
No, I know, but like like the artists that come in that you've never heard of because they're not part of the actual game. They're just doing drawings. I feel like
Yeah.
it would be encompassed with those people.
Yeah, but like, okay, I want to get something signed by Scott Snyder. What do I get signed? I don't have anything.
Give you a little postcard.
Sign your chest like the old-fashioned way, like rock stars did.
Yeah, I'll let him sign his name right here up above my right tit. You know, like there's nothing to sign. Like that's man, thank you for that comment. That really man, I love this industry so much, dude.
Pizza signed my tablet. As an ex Genius Bar employee, that infuriated me.
I'm weak.
Oh my god. Wow, Tyler, what the
I
fuck?
told you I couldn't show that.
Oh, you sent it to us? Hold
I
on.
sent you a screenshot.
Oh, I got some of that first one.
What is what I can't all right. All right. I'll leave that alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm over here trying to really like share my feelings about comics, and we got some weird stuff going on. All right.
I'm
I guess
tempted
that
to
means
mention
it's
the
time.
Shadow the Hedgehog video.
Oh my god.
No, we're good.
You know what I want to do? Because you guys have been amazing today. Really, really fantastic. This audience is the best audience in comics. I love you guys. What I want to do is I want to give away some more channel memberships because you deserve it. And we get to give away we get to give away a few a month. And so that's what I want to do right now. So I'm gonna give away 5 channel memberships right now. Here we go.
Drum roll. Oh shit. Ooh, got some lurkers. TFB TJ gifted a membership. Famous Thanius gifted a membership. Jet X gifted a membership. Nuki Brown gifted a membership, and Blue Spaceman. Enjoy those memberships.
I believe it's
Hell yeah.
pronounced Blue Spachemin.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Love to see it. Thank you guys for your tremendous support today. We are not done by any means. This show is we've been doing this for over 2 hours, and we've got at least an hour to go. Hang with us. We've got fun stuff to talk about and some announcements to make right now. Before I make those announcements, subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed. We are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. Hopefully, we can do that within the first quarter of 2025. That'd be huge. So help us get there. If you're not subscribed, click that subscription button. Oh, Catherine Stars with the 5 gifted memberships.
Oh.
Pete Fultz, my rival Kefis, gifted a membership. Cosmo gifted a membership. Love to see that. Michael Nadeau gifted a membership. That's what I'm talking about. Raphael Drudiak and Victor Patino all gifted memberships. Congratulations. I want to see more Pals Heads. Look at that chat. Look at that chat. So many channel members. I love the green names. Love it, love it, love it.
Green names, where are the pals' heads now that you got access to it? Let's lay that stuff down. Where they at?
And thank Catherine for doing that, by the way. Dex
Hey.
Baker with the 5 spot. Nothing to add. Y'all are doing a good job. Well, thank you, Dex. Appreciate your support, dude.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
The absolute best way to show support for the channel is patreon.com/thecomicspals. We try to give you, like, as much value as you think you get from this podcast. We try to give you at least that much, even more so on the Patreon. There's enough content for you to fill your days with us if that is something that you want to do. So please do check us out over on Patreon. At least give it a look. You can subscribe for free. There are a handful of free posts that you can check out. So please do that. Dirk Manning, what's up, Dirk? My guy, Dirk Manning, writer of. We could do a whole podcast just talking about the books that Dirk has written. 5K would be well earned. Smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much, Dirk, for that. We gotta get up. We gotta chat. Shu Patel says, "Can I just say I love this show more than I do the review show? It's just a lot more fun, and also I can actually catch it since it's at an appropriate time for me, since I live in the Eastern Hemisphere. Whatever show you appreciate of ours, the fact that you appreciate us on any level, thank you so much for that. Although, you know, hey, I think Pals Pools is fun in its own right. We get up to some hijinks over there. We had a great time last night. So I encourage everybody to watch everything we do if you can sustain that.
Yeah, where you come call it? Where are you calling in from?
Yeah. Please let us know. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. First of all, the first announcement up is about next week's guest. Next week's guest, we have a major first-time guest coming on the show. Marco's hyped. I'm hyped.
So excited.
Tyler, are you hyped?
Yeah.
Hype appropriate.
For the first time ever, we will be joined on this podcast at a special start time of 12:15 or yeah, 12:15 I guess. Eastern. We will be joined by none other than the writer of the Power Fantasy, the writer of the end of the Krakoan era, the writer of The Wicked and Divine. We are going to be joined by Kieran, MF, and Gillen.
Let's go.
And we met Kieran at New York ComiCon this past New York ComiCon.
Yeah.
Super chill dude.
Yeah, super nice. Really gracious with his time. Very excited. This has been a long time coming, a lot of rescheduling, so very excited for it.
Hell yeah. So if you have questions for Kieran, get them into us. Super chat questions will be the priority on the day, but we will also be looking closely at the Discord to see who leaves questions there. And then third down the rung is live questions from non-super chatters. So definitely make sure to think of something good to ask them and show up on the day. We love the support. You guys tuned in and showed the fuck out for our Jason Aaron interview. I was so proud of you guys for the support and the amount of you that showed up. That looks really great for us, and I'd love to see that happen when we have Kieran on.
And that was an off day too. That's like that's not a normal day. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's do the same thing.
He was really appreciative of it too. And yeah, like Sean said, that's definitely a boon for us. You know, that means he's down to come back again at some point.
Definitely.
Chap Harder says the power is no longer a fantasy. Hell yeah, brother.
So this should
Damn.
be
Oh, sorry, Shub saying I'm from India, so Pals Pulse is usually like 4 a.m. I was able to catch live Sean seeing Storm and Landre since I had to go to a wedding today in the morning.
You never know what the fuck is gonna happen on these streams, dude. You don't.
So
We
funny.
don't. Like, did we plan to talk about piss for 40 minutes 2 weeks ago? No.
Maybe you guys didn't.
That's right. Holy shit.
You will never understand the inner machinations in my mind.
They're an enigma.
Catherine Stars with the 5 spot. Thank you so much, Catherine. Says road to 5K. Let's fucking go. Yes,
Hey.
yes, indeed.
$5 for the road to 5K.
Hell yeah. Yes. And then the second announcement we have to make is about the book club. Now, we are doing Spider-Man month, as you all well know, and we asked you to choose the book that would represent Spider-Man on this podcast for the month of January. You had 4 options. Those were Kraven's Last Hunt, Amazing Spider-Man by JMS, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Superior Spider-Man. The winner is Superior Spider-Man.
I'm so excited to have you for you to read this, Sean. I'm really interested. We'll might be talking about Dan Slott later, but I think it's his best part of his run.
Hell yeah.
Giuseppe Camuncoli on a good majority of the art. Big fan. Oh, I'm super hyped for this.
Yo, speaking of Superior, got a Superior palette here. Pete Collins, 5 gifted memberships. Jonathan Chu, Eric Carter, Zauri Severino Jr., Sylv Stevenson, and Brian Twelvish. Let's go, folks.
Hell yes. Let's go. Thank you so much, Pete. Thank Pete if you got a membership gifted to you by Pete. I'm glad to see those names being gifted. That's awesome. Some of our regulars right there.
Yes, hell yeah, dude.
I have never read Superior, as Tyler alluded to. I've been trying to figure out how I should do this because, like, I've got the tab open for purchasing the omnibus. It's a little over $70, like $80. And I don't know if I should do that. It's a blind buy. I have bought several omnibuy that I hadn't read already. But I just don't know if I should do it for this.
How much was this one?
It'd be 80.
Here's an idea. Let's maybe check it out digitally, Sean. And if you like it, maybe that's something you can pull the buy now option on the show of the book club if it's something you like.
I wouldn't do it though, because like if I buy it digitally, I'm not gonna instantly double dip.
Fair.
I would have
Oh,
to.
you don't have that
I would
many
have to
unlimited.
sail
Okay.
the high seas first.
Unless
On a cruise.
somebody's got a Marvel Unlimited that can throw Sean's way.
Yeah, give me a Marvel Unlimited subscription, and I'll gladly do that. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do as far as reading it, but obviously I will get it read one
Is
way
it
or
actively
another.
in print, the omnibus?
As far as I know, it just got into print in 2023,
Okay, yeah, so it
this
probably still
edition.
is. Yeah.
So
Wow. The Superior Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1 is $39.99, but with the discount, $33.99. Your boy's getting that.
but it's only volume one of two.
Omnibus Volume 1.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Volume
You
1 is
talking
actually
digital or?
digital. It is digital. It's the Kindle edition.
oh,
Oh, wait, that's
fuck.
the new Superior Spider-Man. Hold on. Don't want that
That's
one.
the one that just came out like last year.
Ah,
Yeah,
No, no,
which is like
there's another one that's Superior Spider-Man, Volume 1 Supernova by Dan Slott and Bagley, but that one is with Comixology Unlimited. You can read it for free. So
that's the new one. That's the
that's
new
the new
one.
one. Right, right. I
Yeah.
was referring to the other one. But actually the real one with Christos Gage, Dan Slott, Volume 1, the complete collection, if you have a Comixology Unlimited membership, $0.
oh,
Oh,
is
well,
it? Wait, is Sean's Comixology Unlimited finally
yes.
coming into play here?
Let's see. This has issues 698 to 700 and Spider-Man 1 through 16. So
That's
might need a
volume
little bit
one.
more.
Yeah, it's at least volume one.
So shit, that might be the way. Matt slash Cosmo asks, how many issues are we reading? So we're talking about this live. I think we do the whole thing because it's not. It's only like the whole of it is only like 30 issues, so that's five more than our limit.
It would be similar to East of West, what we did for East of West, I think.
That's not terrible. And this is if you have the Spider-Man Omnibus, which again, $30. Actually, Sean, $33 with your Comixology Unlimited membership. It has 698 to 700, annuals 1 and 2, and issues 1 2 through 31. So the full thing.
There's no chance in hell I'm buying this digital.
It's
I can't.
my dude. There's a button that says "Buy now" with one click.
Fuck that. I ain't clicking.
I just clicked live. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, very good. There you go. Marco spending some cash money on Superior Spider-Man. This is what we do for you guys, by the way. Like we do these book clubs every month,
Splendid.
and we spend money
Yeah.
of our own to be able to put and facilitate these shows. That's fucked up.
There are only a couple instances where, like for example, like East of West, I happen to have
You
gotten
had
a
it,
humble
yeah,
bundle
and I got lucky
years
'cause
ago.
I used
Yeah,
yours, yeah.
exactly. So it got lucky.
And by the way, we don't spend comics bucks on this.
We
We
don't.
don't dip into the kitty for this.
I mean, I have most of our book clubs physically, and I'm not a physical guy. Like I have
Awesome.
Man of Steel hardcover. I wouldn't have gotten that any other way.
Wow. Just take a look at the chat right now. Just green names.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Pete Collins looks like they have the omnibus at Forbidden Planet. Sean, just saying. Nudge,
Might be worth a
nudge.
check.
And then what? I'm gonna spend full price. So I'm gonna be looking to drop $120 something for this bad boy when I'm waffling on spending 70.
I'm pretty sure I have all the single issues and I have the complete editions, not the omnibus, the soft cover bad boys. Which the first one is pretty cheap. Second one apparently is out of print, so great. I love Marvel and their publishing line for collected editions. Real easy and fun to manage.
Yeah. Jay Sage says, so glad it wasn't Craven's Last Hunt. The book has been reviewed to death. It has, and we've reviewed it already, actually. So it was in the before times, but yeah, we did do that. JetX says, no clue when I got gifted a membership. I had the stream on in the background, but thank you, kind stranger. I think that was that
Catherine?
us?
I think it was Catherine.
Might have been Catherine. Thank
Who?
Catherine.
Thank everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for the community.
Yeah. Gore Vidal
Speaking of-
says, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And speaking of the community, I posted a link earlier. I'm gonna repost it, but if you want to join the Discord, continue having conversations with everybody here. please feel free to join. Somebody recently just joined during the stream, Adam, I think, and all the stuff we're talking about here, the diamond fallout, that was started on the Discord. We obviously come here to bring it to a larger audience, but if you want to get ahead of some of the conversations we'll probably tackle, please do. Yeah,
And
Pete.
and even like just double down on the Discord and book clubs in general. Every Monday, a Discord community runs the Monday book club. I think Atomic Count announced they're doing Superman Secret Origin coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I
Yeah,
have Monday off, so I want to join it.
I've never read that one either.
Speaking of Spider-Man, we've been doing our top 5 Spider-Man villains for the month of January. And now we're going to get into our number 1 picks. But what I want to do is run down your 4. You don't need to say anything about them, just your 4, and then discuss your number 1. That way everybody will know what our actual top 5 is.
I brought up a note that I keep all this stuff in, and I forgot I had like my top Comics Pals moments on there. Number 1 was SawCon. But I can go first for this since I'm talking.
Shoot, go for it.
So my number 5 was Mysterio. Booyaka, booyaka. Number 4 was Kraven. Number 3, Venom. Number 2, Dr. Octopus. And is there really any discussion on who number 1 would be? Number 1 is Norman Osborn himself, Green Goblin. I don't think in my eyes there was a discussion here. This is just implicit. Green Goblin is the Joker to Spider-Man's Batman. It's Norman Osborn is everything that complicates being Spider-Man. This is his best friend's dad. It's the interpersonal relationships of having to deal with, somebody intimately as a person being a complete psychopath. And the idea of Norman Osborn himself kind of expands a little even past Green Goblin. I guess maybe I should have put Norman Osborn as number 1. But Green Goblin's not even just like a Spider-Man villain too. Like Norman has, during the Dark Reign saga of Marvel, became like a big Marvel big bad. He was leader of the Thunderbolts. I talked about it last week. That issue of Thunderbolts where Green Goblin or Norman Osborn finally breaks and becomes Green Goblin again is phenomenal. And then he always, like in the most recent run of Zeb Wells' Spider-Man, he became, he was a good guy for Spider-Man. But Spider-Man was always wary of, Norman. And when's the other shoe going to drop? And it eventually does. Green Goblin does come back with some stellar Ed McGuinness art. He's just an ever-present thing. He's the one who, outside of Uncle Ben dying, the biggest thing that happened to Spider-Man was the death of Gwen Stacy. That was Norman Osborn. I don't think there's any discussion as to how Green Goblin can't be number 1. So that's my number 1. He's also like top 3 comic book characters of all time for me. So I'm just a huge Green Goblin fan.
Mine is in order. So number 5 was Morbius. Felicia. Shocker at number 4. Doc Ock at number 3. Venom at number 2. And number 1, just like Tyler said, Green Goblin. I've read a lot of the older Spider-Man pieces, and so the Gwen Stacy death was super impactful, and for it to be one of the first true implications of death in comics, I think is momentous, and for that to be at the hands of someone as nefarious as Green Goblin was, I think, takes it for me. Also, the fact that he and the relationship that he has with Norman, I think, is really interesting to dissect because, like you said, yeah, it gets pulled out from under the rug for Peter, and that's and it's huge. It has huge implications for the character and what he cares about and what he does after. And so, yeah, I'm not much more to add except for it's a spectacular character. It's a spectacular villain. You can feel evil, and that I think makes a good villain.
So I went a different way, slightly. I deviate from the rest of the pals here. My top 5 is Electro, Mr. Negative, Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, and my number one pick, which may be a big surprise to you all, is Spider-Man fans. I am saying that Spider-Man fans are the number one
Up.
villain of Spider-Man. These people, they fucking hate this character and they can't let go of a storyline from 18 years ago. Let it go. No, I'm just kidding.
Go take a shower.
For real. No, my actual number one is Venom. I
Oh,
love Venom. I think now I do believe that Venom has been a victim of success in the sense that the character is so popular that they kind of neutered him. But when I choose Venom as my number one, I'm talking about the very, very earliest Venom appearances when he was a creepy stalker who wanted nothing more than to ruin, not just kill Spider Man, but to ruin his life. When he stalked MJ and he was in the house watching her and creeping on her, that issue of Spider Man is fucked up. And I felt Peter's anger at the idea that there was somebody that existed that he couldn't detect, his spider sense didn't work on him, who knew his secret identity and wanted to ruin his life. I love those early issues of Venom. I think Venom was presented fantastically as a bigger, more powerful, more monstrous version of Spider-Man. I like him a lot as that funhouse mirror interpretation of Spider-Man as a character. I love the OG Eddie Brock character. I think he's great too. And they did a tremendous job of presenting that villain. The arc from the symbiote, from Peter acquiring the symbiote in Secret Wars to Venom and the defeat of Venom, is one of the best Spider-Man arcs of all time. And I encourage everybody to check it out. Also, Venom has had maybe more appearances in a video game than any other Spider-Man villain, and they tend to always be good. One of my favorite ones is actually from Spider-Man on PlayStation, when you fight Venom, but you also kind of team up with him in a way as well. And there's a really great moment where they're having a fight, and Venom's like, "Spider Wuss, where are you? Come out and play." And they have this big battle. It's a lot of fun. I love Venom, and so for me, that's the best Spider-Man
hell yeah, dude. All right. You know what time it is? Venom on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
villain. Venom.
Venom.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize we were doing that.
Oh, I forgot I was here.
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
What are you guys in the chat? Who's your number one Spider-Man villain? I see Luna saying number one villain is the editors.
Couple people
Young
said that.
Dende says Cheap Heat for me calling out the audience as the true villains of Spider-Man. Listen, I only speak facts. I only
Yeah.
speak facts.
Dex, so are you cutting a You People promo?
Yes.
Damn.
Yes, indeed.
Gore Vidal saying Scorpion is his favorite Spidey villain. Interesting.
I respect that. I respect
Why?
that. Because he's cool. I mean, why?
I mean, Scorpion's cool. I like Scorpion, but I mean, come on.
He seems like intro arc villain that you just need Spider-Man to beat up a lot. Like the most he did was when he wasn't Scorpion.
Said
like
the
his
goofy ass costume.
Yeah, it's when he was Venom.
That first iteration of the costume is atrocious. Like
I like that. I have an action figure of that one. That's a
you
good.
really?
Yeah, hold on, give me 2 seconds.
That lumpy ass tail. Like
yeah.
what? What was that? Issue 1, 2?
Yeah, it's not one.
It's number. Is it?
One is the chameleon, and I don't know if it's two.
Hold on.
It's two lizard. It could be Scorpion. It could be. Harris says chameleon is his number one. Jay Sage says Doc Ock. Young Dende said the lizard. Kefis said Tombstone. Mark question with J. Jonah Jameson. I like that. Uncanny Suit says Doc Ock. Catherine says, I was Green Goblin, but Sean, you make a compelling argument.
Yeah.
No, that costume is sick as fuck.
Damn.
It doesn't
You're
have the
saying
right
that's
mask.
trash?
It doesn't have the right mask. The first mask is really bad. This is a more
first
modern
mask, yeah.
mask, but
The face is goofy.
yeah.
Actually, Sean, that was Amazing Spider-Man 19.
Oh, okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Uh,
I missed the scorpion tail. I missed like the stinger.
hold on, Marco. You think that costume sucks? The one that Tyler's showing?
I thought it looked like a goofy ass face. It's the face that gets drawn.
The comic face is bad. The first iteration,
Yeah.
it's almost as bad as the first iteration of Lizard.
Yeah.
Ah, man. I guess all that shit's just classic to me. I love it, but I guess, I
They,
guess
they,
Lizard looked cooler later.
they really were, when Spider-Man first launched, just banger after banger villains.
Yep.
Yo, back to back too.
It's a murderer's row. Absolutely. Literally. Okay, we got to move the show along. We got a lot more to tackle here. And we're going to kick things off in the news segment by talking about Dan Slott. Dan Slott, as was predicted by Bleeding Cool, as we talked about here based on Bleeding Cool's reporting months ago, Dan Slott is jumping over to the DC side of things to work on Superman. More specifically, Superman Unlimited. Most specifically, with Raphael Albuquerque on art, which is a massive fact,
Nice.
launching in May of 2025.
Albuquerque just can't leave Superman, huh? He was supposed to be doing Absolute. Now he's doing this. I wonder if there's something related there.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Aaron's loss, certainly Dan Slott's gain in this
Sure.
case.
You look at this cover, looks good.
Hell yeah.
I'm into this.
Yeah, this
Hell
is
yeah.
cool. Yo, who's this little monkey Sasquatch looking guy?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Gorilla City correspondent or something.
That's goofy.
Here's the thing. Okay. People, I'm going to go on a little bit of soapbox right now. People sleep on Dan Slott. Dan Slott, I think, has maybe been coasting the past 2 years with just like Spider-Verse stuff and Spider-Man adjacent stuff, Spider-Boy, Industry Plant, whatever. But Slott, outside of Spider-Man, has still put out fucking bangers. Slott has done Silver Surfer, essentially Doctor Who, but that's really good with Mike Allred. He did a really, really underrated Fantastic Four run that people should check out. His Iron Man run was probably one of the more fun Iron Man runs in recent memory that didn't have to deal with, Iron Man's this guilty arms dealer. Dan Slott did Avengers Academy or Avengers Initiative years back with Steve. Oh, geez, why am I forgetting the artist there? Current Ultimate Black Panther artist.
Oh, Caselli?
Stefano Caselli. Yes, that's who it is. Yeah, like Dan Slott has done a lot of really, really good work, and for the amount of time he was on Spider-Man, that's impressive to consistently put out quality work. So I think it's time for him to have a change of scenery, and I think Superman is a very good character for him, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Look, Jason Aaron got a little bit offended during the interview we did when I suggested that he might feel reinvigorated right now. And I thought that was weird because all I was saying was, hey, you're exciting right now. You've got some shit going on, and you're knocking it all out of the park. I think Jason Aaron and Dan Slott are in the same camp. Two excellent writers who stayed at the party for a little bit too long. That's all. Now that Dan Slott is free to stop fucking, well, he's not actually stopping telling Spider Verse stories, but now that he's free to tell stories elsewhere, I think we're going to see that he's probably just as excited to step away and do more like other stuff as we are to see him do that. So I have no issues with this at all. I think if he has Superman stories to tell, which he clearly does, based on the fact that he said in the press release that he's been waiting his whole life to do this, that tells me that he's gonna do big things with this book, and I'm seated for that. Why not?
Couple things here. How do you guys feel about this being Superman Unlimited? It's its own book. It's giving me Scott Snyder on Superman Unchained vibes.
No, I feel like this is probably something that maybe more directly ties to his time. Like just looking by the cover as well to the Watchtower, I think that's fine. I think it being like a, let's say, Justice League adjacent book as opposed to maybe his own adventures as like a warmer for him, I think is okay. Like he can do more space stuff in my mind. He can do, some cosmic DC world expansion out here. So I I like the idea that it'll maybe connect to those pieces, and just based off cover alone, he's not in Metropolis. The characters are here, his big players are here, but he doesn't have to be bound to Earth. And I like when Spider-Man's like that, or when Superman's like that.
So the framing device for this run is that there is a kryptonite asteroid shower that brings Green K, as it's being called, to Earth in plentiful masses. So now goons in the street with guns have kryptonite bullets. And that's gonna not even the playing field, but make it so that Superman and his allies are a little bit more vulnerable to regular goonery than ever. I guess it's an odd choice of words given the context of the rest of this fucking podcast. But Superman is going to have to seek out new alliances and figure out a new way to be a hero. We also know that there's going to be an expansion of the Daily Planet, and we're also going to be introduced to King Solivar's goddaughter, Tina, who is an IT specialist from Gorilla City.
I
That's
guess I was right with that. Yeah.
Yep.
that's so funny. Love interest
I mean-
of potential love interest.
He's with Silver Banshee right now. I think he's good. Him and Siobhan
Oh,
are pretty
word.
good.
That's right.
I just like how there's nepotism even in Gorilla City.
See, make your way.
What'll be interesting to me is to see what the market is really for Superman, because we have Action Comics, we have Superman Core, we have Absolute Superman, and now Superman Unlimited. So that's 4 ongoing Superman books, which has to be the most we've had in at least a very long time. And will all of these be successes? And then we've got PKJ's book coming as well, so that's going to be 5.
Which really showing this explains why that I guess wasn't meant to come out when it was supposed to come out. That's only that though. But with this, they also announced there will be more Superman books too. Well, not Superman adjacent books. Like Supergirl is going to get a book. Crypto is getting a book. Superboy apparently is getting a book.
Yep.
They didn't say which Superboy, but we said Summer of Superman before DC did. Just saying we were
Yeah.
coining that term before them. But there is a Summer of Superman coming, and they're going to be doing a lot of super books. So
That makes
we'll see.
sense. Play into it, right? Get that cross pollination to whatever degree that you can, but follow it up on the movie end. Like you're gonna put all these books out, cool. Maybe some minis, some whatever. Like build that hype for the fan base that's already. It's building excitement for the fan base that is probably already going to watch the movie.
Yeah. All right, let's move things along. Let's talk about this horse shit. Let's talk about what Andy Muschietti, director of the world's worst superhero movie, that's not true, but it's pretty fucking bad. The Flash. He was interviewed by Variety, I guess. Radio 2's La Bolera del Caso. So I guess it's through them, but Variety put out the article related to this. And Muschietti talked about the popularity of the Flash film and why it underperformed. So he said the Flash failed among all the other reasons because it wasn't a movie that appealed to all 4 quadrants. So the quadrants are males over 25, males under 25, females over, and females under 25. It wasn't a movie that appealed to all 4 quadrants. It failed at that. When you spend $200 million making a movie, Warner Brothers wants to bring even your grandmother to theaters. I've found in private conversations that a lot of people just don't care about the Flash as a character. Okay.
All right, bud. The quadrants. Hold on. Males over 25, under 25, females over 25, and females under 20. Isn't that everybody?
All people, yes.
Okay, so you're saying your movie flopped?
It's a fancy way of saying nobody gave a fuck about what I made.
How about you make something good?
There it is.
And it's such a shit blame shift. You're gonna say that people don't care about the Flash? No. That's horseshit. First of all, at the exact same time that this movie was coming out, there was a Flash TV show that was doing just fine on the CW. Second of all, I would argue that if you go back 30, 40, 50 years, one of the only superheroes people could name is the Flash. I would say Batman, Superman, Hulk, Spider-Man, Flash, Wonder Woman, and like Aquaman would have been the most popular superheroes people could name 40, 50 years ago. So miss me with that.
I would say even now, like the Flash, just like when the idea of super speed happens, it's a Flash. Like people know who the Flash is without knowing Barry Allen or Wally West. They know the Flash. That is a recognizable thing. So that's just a dumbass take. And then shifting blame to like, oh, women didn't like my movie. Then I don't know, if you have quadrants you have to hit, maybe make a movie that can appeal to that instead of saying, well, they didn't like it. And maybe make a Flash movie too. That would have been nice.
Yeah, like you made a movie that was ass, right? And you're not going to take any responsibility for that, even if like maybe you inherited a bad situation because the Flash was in development hell for years. There were a lot of problems with that movie. I would give him grace on all of that. What bums me out is this statement. You're putting the blame on audiences and you're putting the blame on the character. What about you, dude? What about that fucking CGI abomination where you included a dead man who did not consent, Christopher Reeves, to being used in your movie for cheap pop? It didn't pop me. I wasn't happy to see Christopher Reeve in that moment. It didn't even pertain to him. It wasn't even a Superman movie. What the fuck are you showing me this for?
Pop the blood.
It wasn't a Flash movie. It was a multiverse movie. It was a Flashpoint-esque movie. It wasn't a Flash movie. And it wasn't good. And also, like, Ezra was still there, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't help. No, they're an unlikable person, IRL. And surprisingly, not been in anything since. Wonder why. It's just like, just don't say anything then.
Right.
Like, this does not make me excited for Batman and Robin. I'm sorry. If he's the same director that's going to be doing that movie, our introduction of Batman in the DCU, I'm not excited for that. People complain like, oh, why are we getting Clayface? Why are we getting a Deathstroke and Bane movie before Batman? I don't want it if it's from this guy.
Kefis in the chat says, you know, because so many people cared about Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie popped off, man. Got 3 sequels.
That's an excellent point.
It's not about the character. It's about the actual art.
Yeah, and that's what this ended up being. Is, hey man, just make a better movie and a better product, and people will come to it.
I would argue that based on the circumstances surrounding the movie, even if it was excellent, I don't think it would have done gangbusters. I just think that there was too much heat. We knew the DCU was ending, and people didn't give a shit anymore. I think there were so many reasons why people didn't like Ezra Miller as Flash before all the Ezra Miller garbage came out.
Yeah.
I don't think this was a recipe for success regardless. But you have to be graceful. You have to take some level of ownership. If he would have said, hey, you know what? The movie underperformed. Whatever the reasons are, people just didn't show up to see this. We're taking a look at the reasons why. We're analyzing it, and we're going to do much better next time around. There were some regime issues that are sorted out now. We've got a great leader, and we have a great strategy for the future. That's all he had to say. You don't blame the people who, by the way, you don't blame the people who paid tickets to see your movie, and you also don't blame people who didn't. You know why? Because those people who didn't are potential customers for the future.
Yeah, exactly. Those are people that are coming back. They're going to be the butts in the seats.
It just reeks of just like, ugh, more women not, I guess, welcomed into the comic book space. Gee, thanks for perpetuating that.
Luna says, wait, women didn't like a movie that was bad, but also has an actor who hurts women?
Yeah. Seems like women are reasonable.
Go figure.
And also,
yeah.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Why, like, men didn't go see it either. We didn't see it. It sucked.
Yeah. And like, I know the movie was stifled with excess shit, from studios, from, power vacuums and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the movie itself, from a craft perspective, not great. Didn't look good. Everything was brown, you know. Your
It's the
your
Speed Force.
your climactic scene is just dirt clouds.
Oh, the sands of time. Tyler, you just don't get it.
And also, you probably should have figured out that maybe Barry would care about who kills his mom. Just saying.
Oh my god,
That's
dude!
so
Don't even
funny.
bring that shit back up because I'll lose it.
Oh, that's
I,
where the meme came from.
yeah. All right. Enough of this garbage. Let's talk about some actual bullshit, some disgusting things. And I do want to say, normally I'm not the guy for this, but I do want to say that we're about to talk about Neil Gaiman, and there may be some people who have a difficult time with the subject matter of what Neil Gaiman is accused of. So I do want to say, if the subject of SA bothers you, of coerced sexual acts bothers you, then this next topic might not be for you. But if you feel like you can handle such things, then I do think this is an important discussion to have, even briefly, because we're talking about one of the people who, prior to all of this garbage, would have been on most people's Mount Rushmore of best writers in comics overall. I think Neil Gaiman is an easy contender for that conversation prior to all of this garbage. So, last year, we talked about how there was a podcast that dropped that detailed allegations against Neil Gaiman. Allegations that ranged from just kind of creepy, like, you know, pr- I don't even want to use the word praying, like getting with fans, hooking up with fans who were younger, much younger, as young as 18, from what I have personally seen. Um, and, the word grooming, of course, is thrown around. Um, and betting them. So it ranges from that all the way to bringing on, I believe the original allegation was a maid of some sort that he had,
Nanny, yeah.
yeah, sexual relationship with, that was unwanted. And so that was bad enough. But this week, Vulture dropped a damning article,
Bombshell.
bombshell article about Gaiman and some of the things that he has engaged with. Now, Neil Gaiman is married to a woman named Amanda Palmer. She
It was.
is she passed?
No. They're not married
They're
anymore.
they're divorced.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Was married to Amanda Palmer. She's a performer. I think she does music. She also
Yeah.
does art.
She's probably an indie folk kind of artist. Yeah.
Right. And so they were married. They allegedly had some kind of an open situation, and then of course they were separated for a time. So it sounds like what Neil Gaiman was engaging in was within the bounds of his relationship as far as like being with other women. I don't know how Amanda Palmer feels about the actual actions that he was engaging in as far as SA, but uh there are pieces of this article that made me feel like maybe she was aware, complicit, didn't care. I'm not sure how to parse all that out.
It didn't feel like she wasn't like encouraging or necessarily engaging, but it's like, hey, you're being left to your own devices, and I'm just kind of gonna walk away.
Right. That's kind of the vibe I got. And I'm not gonna really read from the article. I just don't want to, quite honestly. But I do want to talk about the one of the major bombshells. So Scarlett Pavlovich was 22 in 2020 when she became a when she got involved with Gaiman and Amanda Palmer. She became a friend of Palmer's and then eventually became a nanny for them and worked with them in the house. But she never met Gaiman. Um, And then she was invited to babysit for the weekend and go between Palmer's house and Gaiman's house. She hadn't met Gaiman before. She finally meets him, and almost immediately he is trying to uh, woo her, I guess. And quote from the article, I've had a thought. Why don't you have a bath in the beautiful claw bathtub in the garden? It's absolutely enchanting. That's what Gaiman offered Pavlovich. She goes and, gets in the bath in the garden after coercing. He pulls up nude to jump in there with her. She's uncomfortable. She says, I'm not comfortable with my body. I don't want this. He jumps in anyways, um, and encourages her to just be comfortable. He tells her not to ruin the moment. And she, Pavlovich, identified herself as gay, a lesbian, and had never had sex with a man at that point in time, um, other than a situation where she was essayed as a child. Um, and so Pavlovich describes in graphic detail that I will not repeat what occurred between them. Uh, I stopped short of saying I don't stop short. He raped her. He coerced her into a situation in which her consent didn't matter, and she went with it rather than enthusiastically engaging with it. And there is a key difference there. And I want to say that and make that clear because there are some people who don't understand that. If a person says, I'm uncomfortable with my body, I'm uncomfortable with this moment, whatever, and then you proceed to have sex with them, you have crossed the boundaries that that person was trying to lay down. And a person could say, oh, well, she could have forced them off. She could have said no even more. Well, she did use the word no, according to her. And that should be enough. And if it wasn't, then to me, we're in a different territory.
Also, like in the middle of nowhere, right? From what I remember, like they
Yeah.
lived, like it was a way to get out of there.
New Zealand, there was a whole thing. And yeah, and it's also like, it's also a situation where, well, I'm in the presence of somebody who could physically harm me. So to what degree does no push back, engage in something more turn into violence against me?
Becomes damage control at
Yeah,
that point. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
disgusting.
the thing that kind of got me as I read the article was where he says, Amanda told me I couldn't have you. So there was a clear understanding that either she was privy to him doing this other regularly, whatever it
His
might be.
proclivities. Yeah,
Right, right, uh, and there was some kind of line drawn that whatever that relationship is, he then crossed, continued to cross.
in the shit. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna get into it, Sean, but his reasoning or the way he justifies this is that it's a bit of a BDSM thing, and it's
Yeah.
the power dynamics within BDSM, which is a way to just throw BDSM under the rug. BDSM is still a two-person consensual act. It might be blurred in the immediate of what you see, but there's still implicit consent involved. He's just trying to be like, oh, this is my kinks. This is what's happened. That's what Army Hammer did. When his allegations came out. It's clear misunderstanding of what that is, and it's a clear misunderstanding of what consent is, and it's disgusting. It's a power dynamic. That's all this is. It's a guy who had power above people and used that to, I don't know, assault people allegedly. You got to sprinkle the allegedlys here.
And I mean, yeah, it's worth pointing out that these are allegations, and there's a possibility they're not true. Although I don't really feel like women are in the business of making shit up. But I know it happens, but that's not the point. The point is that by the sounds of it, he didn't even care about the person that he was engaging with. It was all about him. There's a quote from the article that says He wanted me to call him master immediately. He seemed to have a script. It was like he'd gone into this ritual that had nothing to do with me. And that's coming from a woman who goes in the article by Brenda, who had an encounter, I guess we can say, with Gaiman. And the article is littered with these stories. It's littered with allegations of him, coercing women, saying things like, I'm a very wealthy man and I'm used to getting what I want. According to the article, years later, Gaiman gave Kendall, a woman who made an allegation, $60,000 to pay for therapy, an attempt, as he put in a recorded phone call, to make up for some of the damage. So here's a guy who fully understands that he's causing damage at that point. Neil Gaiman has always presented himself as an intelligent guy, a thoughtful guy who's capable of creating thought provoking art and is a staunch feminist and stands up for LGBT rights and everything like that. It feels to me like he wrapped himself in the shield or the armor of progressive, woman based policies and thought processes to obscure from the fact that he is a monster. Not a master, but a monster.
I mean, it's similar. It's similar. I mean, it's worse here, but it's similar to the Joss Whedon thing. There's this guy who's well, using the idea of feminist to blur the lines in power dynamics. Gaiman's allegedly done a lot worse with that, misunderstanding of power dynamics. But it is shielding yourself in this idea of like, oh, I'm a feminist, I'm pro women. Don't you trust me? It's gross. It's disgusting.
I hate it because, I hate it for the women, of course, but I hate it also because we just can't get away from this shit.
Yeah.
It's like this keeps happening. We lose the ability to respect these people because they're just treating people awfully. And it's another one bites the dust in this case. Another guy who is very prominent in our industry who used his power. Look, in the 90s and the 2000s, guys like Neil Gaiman had their own websites and their own forums that were dedicated to them where men and women were slobbering all over them. All
So
over them.
there's one of these guys who thought himself as like a rock star in comics, and he kind of was.
He certainly was. And he like Warren Ellis and even Joss Whedon, each one of them had forums unto themselves, by the way. And, I've been on the Joss Whedon one, and he's a god there. He was a god there. And so it's easy to understand how a young, impressionable girl or woman, age doesn't even necessarily matter, could fall for the idea of this rich, powerful, artsy, progressive guy and want to reach out, want to tell them how much they love them, etc., etc. He takes it a step further by saying, let's meet up, let's do this, let's do that. And it's like, okay, even if you do that, even if you meet with them, even if you fuck them, that's cool. What's not cool is when they say no and you don't stop. I am all about what happens consensually between two people. I don't get into all that. Oh, well, they were only 20 or what. Like, that's not my business. What is my business and what I concern myself with is people not feeling safe and taking advantage of people. That shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
And we need to be more comfortable in this country and in this world calling this out.
I'll be honest, a lot of comic book sites did not post about this.
True. I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bleeding Cool is one of them that did. But a lot of them kind of hushed on this.
Yeah. It's also, I'm also glad it didn't get relegated to only something like a comic site. Like he's such a prolific, like he has such a spread of things that it was at that kind of like that's where you would talk about it. You would talk about it at places that have such reach, and maybe they have rights to parts of the story. Who knows?
I mean, Neil Gaiman's comic work is not even close to his biggest work. Like he's mostly known as a fiction writer,
Yeah.
and that's where his
Coraline.
prolificity is. I'm sure some of the comics he wrote were some of the best comics, but like Anansi Boys, American Gods, all that's Coraline, all that stuff is where his bread is buttered. But even then, like that's why he's a big writer, and this should be talked about, not just by comic book sites, even if they're not commenting on it.
I want to call out this comment from Electrics because I think it's critical. And I've seen a lot of people sort of wrestling with, you know, what is my culpability in this, or what guilt should I feel if I read Neil Gaiman work? So Electric says, of immediate note, personally, you're not a bad person for having his works loved, like them. He's the bad guy. Too many times have creators, in my case, musicians before jumping on comics, done this. Totally.
Yeah.
It is an individual choice. Can you separate art from artist? If you say, I can do that, if you're that person, then you don't need to feel 1 ounce of guilt or shame for reading what Neil Gaiman wrote. Okay? He did it. It's old shit. You can engage with it, and that's okay for you. If you are a person who says, you know what, I can't do that, I can't read these things without thinking about him and thinking about what he has done, and I'm grossed out by it, that is okay too. It is your individual right. Do not let anybody shame you for what you choose to read. But also, don't be that person who shames people for what they want to read. It's not fair. Neil Gaiman did this, and he puts us all in that uncomfortable situation. But we don't turn on each other. We turn on him. We say fuck him, not fuck us.
Yeah. I had a book by him here, A Study in Emerald, that I've never gotten around to. And post this, I'm like, you know what? Is this worth it? It was also like uh related to violence and some murder and stuff. So I'm like, there's a different headspace for this. I think something like Sandman, still because of when it came out and how I've read it, has affected me enough that it's good fiction, but separate from this individual insofar as culpability stands. So I get conflicted because I've made that choice for one book, but I don't make the choice for another book.
I mean, Sandman's one of my favorite books of all time, but like this brings context to some of the storylines in it. There's
Yeah,
the Muse story on Calliope that they had to change for the TV show because it dealt with SA. That was built into it. So honestly, it's hard for me to separate the art from the artist when it's directly inspired by what this artist was doing.
I think that is completely valid.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's different than just reading if he just wrote like an Iron Man book and it's like, oh, Iron Man's shooting lasers. Like, sure, I think there's variations to this too sometimes.
I wouldn't have a problem reading a Neil Gaiman comic. I watch fucking Cosby Show. It's one of my favorite shows. It's easy for me to live in that space. Joss Whedon, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my favorite TV show. Like, I live in that space of uncomfortability. But if you cannot, that's cool. That's cool. And Aaron Ruiz asks, my question is, would you recommend it to someone? I would not, unless they were comfortable with the understanding of the context surrounding Neil Gaiman. I don't want to do that to somebody else. Like, oh, hey, here's this great work, and then not explain to them the notion of what the creator has done, because they might say, I would never have read this if you told me or if I knew what he did. So that's my line.
Big asterisk on that.
yeah. Like, actually, I think you can see it here. This book, Ant Colony, by a Canadian artist Michael DeForge. Um, One of the first books that I read from him was called Big Kids, and my friend who had recommended it to me and lent me her copy, I now have my own. Um, she's like, "Yo, he's great, but I'll be honest with you, he's kind of a piece of shit. He's doesn't treat women great. I think it's a good book. I think it's up your alley, but if that changes your opinion, then I get that. So yeah, I think being upfront with, hey, Sandman's great, really good stories. he's a piece of shit. He has done XYZ thing. Whether or not that affects your reading or how you might want to engage with this person as a writer, um, and read his work, that's on you to make the decision. But here is at the very least an upfront decision.
Brian 12 is shared with the R. Kelly reference saying, I'll continue to enjoy laughing at Trapped in the Closet, but if you hear age ain't nothing but a number and don't feel uncomfortable, you should. I mean, yeah. Everyone has their own lines on this, and I think respecting everyone's line is key.
Yeah, I'm generally uncomfortable with telling other people how to feel. Like just as a golden rule, I'm not really comfortable telling anybody else how to feel. I tell you, make your own decision based on what makes sense for your life and your emotions and keeping yourself good. If what Neil Gaiman has done, affects you on a deep personal level to the point where you can't engage with his work anymore, that is it. That's all that matters, and nobody can tell you that you're wrong for feeling like that. That's it. Electric says there's always the artist to talk about in the convo, but honestly, you think they want to talk once their writing partner is outed with behaving as bad as this, or let it lie and go on with life? Well, I think that's an important thing to bring up because other people creatively are affected by this. If, for example, the show Sandman season 2, right? Like, if that doesn't get released, because I believe it's already done, Netflix has it. If it doesn't get released, then those people who worked so hard on that show don't get their creative work out in the world, and that can affect them in a lot of ways. Payment wise, I'm sure they were paid. However, what about the fact that this thing that you poured months of your life into, acting wise, will never be seen? That part of your slate doesn't exist anymore. As directors, as writers, as actors, as grips, as all of that, gone. That sucks for them because of one guy.
And that getting, especially as an actor, getting eyes on your product is important to you. That
Right.
gets you more work.
Your craft.
Yeah.
I mean, and in the case of, the artists, Dave McKean, Mike Azuli, although Mike Azuli's passed, but the estates, the residuals on that, potentially get affected as well. So, McKean's income to some degree, probably his most famous works, the covers and our interiors, are going to be affected.
Yeah, we got a question from Dev003X. Thanks for the question. Welcome to the channel. Are they gonna stop printing on these books in the future? That's a question that's gonna be interesting to see how DC approaches that because obviously some of Neil's work is in the conversation for their best-selling stuff. So what's their approach going to be going forward? They haven't spoken about it to my knowledge. I know Marvel made an announcement that they have no uh, work in progress with Neil Gaiman, and I believe I read that DC and one other publisher, probably Image, maybe Dark Horse, are going to come out with an announcement shortly about their plans for Neil.
Oh yeah, because he's been doing something with the gods, Norse gods related with Dark Horse, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. Damn, that's a tough position too, because Sandman's huge, right? Sandman is like,
Yeah.
the literate man's comic book or whatever, right?
They're not going
And
to
so,
stop printing that.
but I mean, let's say you get backlash on that. What do you as their PR, as their marketing director, like you get called out with the decision of, oh, you still want to keep this guy's work in your catalog?
I think it just becomes that they don't talk about it and they don't make new deluxe editions, new artist editions, like new special editions. They just start printing out the same old floppy paperback. It's in print. People can get it. They don't need to talk about it.
Luna says, as a trans woman, I will never support Harry Potter, but I would never tell anyone they can't watch that new HBO show or play that game. And I love you for that because I think that, we don't have control over what other people do. And I feel like what often happens is you can get so caught up in wanting other people to do what you do or have the stance that you have that you hurt yourself by concerning yourself with others. Fuck everybody else, live your reality. Do what makes sense for your life and disregard what other people are choosing to do. Uh, Young Dende says, I've been a Kanye fan for years. I can't listen to his new music because of his rampant anti-Semitism, but I also can't destroy the relationship I have with his college trilogy. These situations suck. Exactly. Exactly. It's very, very, very difficult to navigate. And we all have to make that choice. Ah, sucks. It really does. Like, I have no real connection to Neil Gaiman, so for me, this is outside of the people affected and how it generally sucks. This doesn't personally impact me. But I know that Neil Gaiman is important to so many, and so many women, by the way. One of the most impactful comic book writers with women.
Yeah.
And LGBTQ people.
I took a class at Comics Experience in 2009, and there was a woman there who was learning to write because she fell into comics through Sandman.
Yeah, it's such an entryway for people. I mean, after Swamp Thing for me was Sandman. So it's I have all 10 volumes plus some of the other work plus the, the outside of story thing. So there's such a depth to what the impact of that book singularly.
Right.
Like Sandman introduced a trans character before a lot of comics did.
Yeah.
That was going to be adapted in season 2 by a trans actor. Don't know if we'll see a lot of day of that now.
It sucks, and no matter where you come down on this, it hurts. Um, don't let the hurt don't let the initial hurt translate into a series of dominoes that fall for you. Make your decision and move forward in that. And I think we all do our best to be better people. That's what I come away from this with. Like, let me not, because I can only control me. Let me not ever be the person who makes a woman feel that way. Let me call out friends, people that I might know or engage with who treat women like that. Call the bad behavior from our circles. Don't let people you know get away with awful shit if you can do something about it. But at the end of the day, that's all we get to do. And that, it doesn't feel like enough, but I think it is on the micro. All right. Mike Hanks says, we also got the people that scream woke and cancel culture in comics that strive to be contrarian. Hope his future work gets no love. Yeah, I hear you, man. I don't think this has anything to do with cancel culture. Not that you were implying it did. I'm just saying that, you know.
It's more the other side of the coin.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think he's going to be having any future work. I think this is it, honestly. When you get your face on the cover of a New York magazine for
this, brutal.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had to pull a slide where it's this,
Right. Man. Catherine says this is why this community is top tier, because y'all don't stand for the mistreatment of any of us for any reason. I love everyone here because of that. Yeah, no, for sure. And it extends beyond, certainly it extends beyond women. It extends to all people. I don't think the mistreatment of any person is ever okay. And I think that's something that we all have to vehemently battle against if we consider ourselves to be decent people. And it has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with wokeness or cancel culture. Fuck all that. At the end of the day, you're either a good person or you're not. And we're all somewhere in the middle of that, right? Like, we all have our shit. But hopefully your shit doesn't involve the destruction of the lives of others. Self-destruct, if anything. Don't fuck other people over because you got a head problem.
Because you got a head problem. If you're fucked, yeah, don't bring other people down with
Right.
you.
Self-immolate. Don't set the building on fire. You know what I'm saying?
There's been a lot of self-immolating lately, so let's not take that literally either.
Bad people ain't pals. I love that, Brian. Thank you. Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. All right. We can put that to bed. We will probably not speak about Neil Gaiman on this podcast again, unless some other horse shit comes up. But I'm exhausted from talking about this anyway.
No Neil Gaiman book club thing?
Neil
No,
Gaiman
no,
month?
no Game Month. No, we got to get one off the docket there.
That's off the list.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. And it sucks because, quite frankly, I'm probably the least exposed to Neil Gaiman out of anybody on this podcast.
Horrible turn of phrase.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Well,
All
Blake, let's shift gears here.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Let's end on a good note. Let's end on a positive, happy note. Let's spin the wheel. I didn't set a likes goal. I neglected to do that, but we've got a ton of likes. All I'm asking you for is let's get to 100 before the show ends. So if you haven't liked this yet, please like it. I'd love us to hit 100 before we are wrapped up here. So we're going to spin the wheel of games. We'll close out with something fun, something to send you guys home with a better taste in your mouth, hopefully.
We need one more like. Come on, somebody.
Anybody.
All right,
Literally, not
ready
no
for me to
kidding.
spin?
Yeah.
Let's do this. What do we got? Oh, 2 truths, 1 lie.
Re-roll, please.
Okay, not 2 truths, 1 lie. The lie is that we were prepared for that one. Is it going to do it again?
Definitely.
Is it going to do it again? It did it again. Come on. Come on. This is where I wish I had a physical wheel that I could just, nudge.
That would be cool.
Hey, pals, comic books, right?
Ooh.
Ooh, Brave and the Bold. We know how to play this now.
Oh, shit. Sick.
Yeah.
That's right. That's perfect. This was the first ever listener submitted game. I would love to play more listener submitted games. Let me actually pull up Robert Kashabak's description so that we can play this. He said, the game is you create a scenario and have to pick 2 heroes to deal with it. Chat picks the person that won. So we will play that. Now, before we play, I screwed up a little bit the order here of events, but we got to do it. It's mandatory. We got to shout out the rest of our patrons. So, we'll play the game first. We'll just play. So we have to create a scenario.
Okay.
And 2 heroes to deal with it. That's pretty tough.
Okay. If I create one, can I add clauses that you can't pick? Is that allowed?
Feel free.
Okay. We're going to go. All right. So this is in the middle of an incursion between the DC and Marvel universe. The Earths are colliding. Nobody knows what to do, but a solution needs to be had, or else both worlds get destroyed. We're going Hickman incursion with DC and Marvel. Which heroes, and only 2, it has to be one from DC, one from Marvel, have to figure out how to fix this.
Ready.
Go ahead, Sean.
Fair play. Mr. Terrific
Okay.
and Reed Richards.
Okay, so you're picking 2 brainy guys, and you're the sole people who can fix it.
I think that those 2 will have it sewn up before the day's done.
You think so? Reed won't just come up with a weapon to destroy the other, and when it's terrific, won't do the same thing and just be like, all right, draw.
See, I think Mr. Terrific and his fair play concept would keep Reed in line. They're smart enough to solve the problem without having to entertain the idea of ending either world, and I don't think that Mr. Terrific would allow that thought to be exposed.
I thought
Swamp Thing.
no. I mean that was a thought. But I decided to go with Doom and Superman. Superman would keep Doom in check. Doom would obviously have some kind of twist, nefarious, plan to do otherwise. But then, through the power, that Superman instills hope in people, they manage to fix whatever it is that Doom had that would have destroyed the DC world, DC, planned on DC as opposed to Marvel, and find some harmonious balance between the two of them. And Superman saves the day, kicks Doom's butt and arrests him.
There's conflict in your story.
Yeah. Between our two would be guys.
It's funny in my head when I was coming up with this, I fell between you guys. Mine was Reed and Superman, actually. Reed for the brains, Superman for the brawn. Because something tells me that somebody's going to need to get into some dangerous situations that maybe Superman is best cut out for. Yeah.
I like that.
Hold on. Tyler,
yeah.
you said Reed and Superman. I got Doom and Superman. And as Sean said,
Mr. Terrific
Mr.
and
Terrific.
Reed. CW Gordon says Lex Luthor and Aunt May. Marvel annihilated and DC survives. Win-win.
Lex is a good pick, though. Lex and Reed would be interesting to see those people.
They would blow the shit up. They would come to that.
Gets blown up where?
They would blow up both probably.
Actually, I think Reed would have convinced Lex to be like, we don't have Superman in this world. We respect our humans.
You will get to be the one who annihilates Superman.
Yeah.
And then still have a world, have a universe, a new place to dominate. I like that.
I like how in a lot of our minds, Reed is always on the precipice for becoming the Maker.
Just the bad guy.
He is grounded by his family. Without that, he is reckless.
Harris says Doom and Constantine. That's interesting. I like the Constantine inclusion.
DC Universe, done. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, at the end he reversed some kind of spell and one planet's going down.
Now, I want to know how these two are going to save the universes because Mike Hank says Plastic Man and Punisher.
Hell yeah.
So is this going to be Punisher kills the DC universe? Is that the gimmick?
Would sell. Got those green K bullets.
That's a comic. Musa Rizik, what we are doing is we are playing a game called Brave and the Bold, where we come up with a scenario. Tyler came up with a scenario where there's an incursion between the DC and Marvel universes, and we have to pick two characters, one from each universe, to solve the problem. And so we've got a poll up right now where you guys can vote for which of us you think put together the team most likely to be able to solve the problem. Tyler chose Reed and Superman. Marco chose Superman and Doom. I chose Mr. Terrific and Reed Richards. So cast your vote. Let us know what you think. CW Gordon says, man, I miss the incursions. Me too, dude. Easily my favorite fucking time. Like reading Avengers, even more than Bendis, was when new Avengers would come out. And it was like, what the fuck is going to happen next? Doctor Strange has demons inside of him. Namor flooded Wakanda. Like, all these bad things. They erased Steve Rogers' mind. Like, all this awful stuff they were doing.
They Dr. Lighted him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Aaron Ruiz said, trust me, guys, I got this. The Maker and Superboy Prime. No shit. I thought about Superboy Prime.
Huh.
Hell yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Maker and Superboy Prime be very interesting.
Yep.
Each trying to like remake the other consistently, trying to fight each other in that way.
JSH says Secret Crisis 2030.
Ooh,
Hell yeah.
I like that name, Secret Crisis.
That's what it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it was called in 5G. In Doomsday Clock, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, it was on the board, right? Yeah.
No, in Doomsday Clock there's the last few pages are like just looking into the future, Manhattan looking into the future or whatever, and he talks about the secret crisis that was coming, and obviously referencing a fusion of the two.
Huh.
Nier says, I want to do a read of Bendis era of Marvel through the Hickman era all the way to Secret Wars. Dude, I'm desperate to do that. I've been racking my brain to figure out a way to make that happen on the channel, but it's just so much that I don't know if we could all commit to something like that.
I like this one. Musa Risk, Batman, and Namor. Namor is the only character who had the balls to press the button in New Avengers, if I remember correctly.
And
Get
the
'em.
whole the conflict in Hickman's things, like who can destroy this world, who wants that weight on them,
Yo,
and
Namor
like
said
T'Challa,
gimme.
like almost being there to do it, right?
Yep.
Man, Namor's such a fucking good character.
Hell yeah.
The Jason Aaron stuff's been fun.
I will probably check it out once it's done. Yeah,
It's a mini, right?
it's got to be.
Yeah.
There's no way Namor gets an ongoing.
Pete Collins says Dr. Manhattan and Doctor Strange.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Nope.
I don't think so. I think Doctor Manhattan would be like, no, this is the way that needs to be.
Yep.
Sorry.
Dr. Manhattan wouldn't care, and Doctor Strange already showed you what he's willing to do when incursions come around. So
It's true. Yeah.
wow. Young Dende says Cable and Booster Gold.
Oh, so there's time travel to where it's not happening?
Where they've already somehow fixed it.
Yeah, cop out.
Near says Marvel Bendis Deep Dive. Again, something rattling around in my brain. I'm just trying to figure out how to make that work.
My critiques, Swamp Thing and Man Thing, you're gonna get green mush, man.
There's just a bunch of trees and vines preventing the planets from touching.
Yeah, they're literally pushing. For that, you do Swamp Thing and Krakoa, literally pushing each other against like.
All right, I ended the poll. I won at 40%. Marco at number 2 with 33%, and Tyler bring up the rear with 26%. Pretty close. Pretty close. Thank you for voting. Appreciate that. If you guys will indulge me, hopefully you will, I would love for you to listen to the rest of the Patreon shoutouts and a origin. I have an origin to do before we can cut out of here. So I'm going to get through that. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. This one's very different. So I'll be interested in some feedback. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, who's with us, John Barrier B, Todd Tremor Butler, Doomsday David Melendez Doria, Cameron Torn Thornton, Steve Swarm Canaris, who was with us, Brian Rage Redmond, Panda V Panda Ted Wong, who was here, Mad Max the Absolute Overthinker, Blur, Jekyll Jose, Kobe the Crafter, Scriptured, whose origin is coming, Hecatron, Amin Almighty Perez, Jalen the Sanguine Sorcerer, Houston Murphy, Jasper Eddy, and I also want to make sure that I shout out Electrix, who joined us this week, joined the Palsverse this week. So thank you so much to all of you. Now I present to you the origin of. One moment. There we go. I present to the origin of Scriptured, the Wardens of the Word.
Ooh.
Words. They have the power to build and destroy. All the world's wars began as wars of words. Words can be as dangerous as any weapon, but the majority of humans wield them with little regard for their power. Words could end the world. That is why the Scriptured exist. Their mission began over 1,000 years ago in a small Vietnamese village. A warlord named Zhao Han's campaign for domination of southern Vietnam went through the village. The people were defenseless and turned to their religious leaders for guidance. The leaders preached patience and steadfastness, believing that Zhao could be reasoned with. Upon his army's arrival, the people quickly learned the fallacy of their leadership's words. Zhao knew no reason and would bend to no will other than his own. The slaughter began immediately, and it looked as though nothing would stand in Zhao's way of claiming this land, taking whatever people were of value and killing the rest. Nothing could stop him, except for the word. The monks exited their temple for the first time in months. Their arrival startled even some of the people from the village, shocked by their presence. There were only 5 in total, but they had a look of supreme confidence, as if what played out before them was an afterthought. Zhao noticed the monks and smiled, believing he could break the spirit of the villagers by killing them. He signaled at a few of his men and pointed at the monks, hastily unsheathing their Dao swords and rushing at the monks. In unison, the monks spoke the word, "Halt!" causing their would-be attackers to freeze on the spot. Their eyes flitted around frantically, unable to move their bodies otherwise. Zhao was confused, but called on more of his men to attack. He joined the fray as well, raising his sword to attack the monks. Burn! The monks spoke in unison, and 5 of the marauders spontaneously burst into flames, horrific screams of agony bursting from their mouths. Burn! And another 5 were on fire. Zhao couldn't believe his eyes. Demons! I will kill you! I will burn! And Zhao suffered the same fate as his men. The monks killed every single marauder who didn't turn and run from them. While their bodies burned, the monks made their way back into the temple and the door shut behind them. The monks were not protecting the village as much as they were protecting the word. Had Zhao found the words of power that when spoken by a trained tongue and honed mind could end the world, he may have chosen to do just that. The scriptured, as the monks would come to be known, are the oldest secret society in the world. Their true origin is secret even to their own members. The current location of the word itself, a secret to all except 5, the descendants of the original wardens of the word. Legend tells of a word never spoken by a warden, a word that would bring about the end of all things. Woe to the world if that word is ever spoken in the tongue. There are those who plot in secret to learn the location of the word, who would use it to sway the battle of good and evil permanently. The war of the words is coming. Thank you, Scripture, for that, and welcome to the Pals verse. Scripture asked for a very unique origin, and so I tried to provide that. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
That was good.
Is the secret word gooner?
It's the word of the day here, but it is not the word.
Bird is the word. I hopefully one of the words can be like dance, and then the villains are just like bum, ba, bum, ga, ba. Like we are all the compulsion to
That's in
simply
D&D.
shake our butts.
I know it's got like a Kamir Taj Kunlun vibes to it a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Like for the Pals verse version of something like that. I can dig it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to see how many of you are still here. I love that. That's great. I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you would like an origin story of your own, you can join the Palsverse at patreon.com/thecomicspals under the Join the Palsverse tier. You will probably hear from me as I ask you what you would like. You don't have to have an answer to that. I am used to coming up with them alone, but every now and then one of you has some specificities you want me to meet, and I'm always up to the challenge. So thank you, Scripture, for that challenge. I appreciate it. Mike Hank says, what will you do when you get tons of memberships in a day? Spread the origins in weeks. We don't do that. We only do about one a week.
Yeah.
We have a backlog of like 5 that we owe, but we don't want to take up all of your time with that.
I might have to start pulling my weight and write one.
Hey, if you would like.
If you want one, I'm still free. If someone's pending and they want me to do it, I will gladly do it.
Scrat, yeah.
Mine might just be different, and I might use a soundboard. Who knows?
Oh, that's gonna be cool.
Jay Sage says, need to join the Patreon. Need me a story. Well, feel free, brother. Appreciate everybody who chooses to do that. Thank you guys for spending. Oh, hold on. Before I move on, I do want to acknowledge the compliments. Catherine Starr says, Sean, I love your writing. Thank you so much. Jay Sage says, clean fade, sultry voice, and great stories. That's Sean. Well, I don't have the cleanest of fades right now. I do need to go see the barber, but I appreciate you all the same. Catherine's been reading my stories for like fucking over 10 years now. It's crazy.
Did you write like fanfic for your Warcraft character?
No. Just other stuff I wrote privately. Near said, that was awesome. Thank you, brother. Scripture said, oh my God, I just missed it. I'll rewatch. I'm sure I'll love it. I hope you do, man. I wrote it for you. Michael Nadeau says, will you ever make a Pals Origins compilation? That's a great question. I like that question. That's something we could do.
Yeah, I can go back to some of those. We have the wiki to reference, so that's actually super helpful.
I just wonder if people would watch it. That's from a YouTube standpoint, would people tune in?
Yeah.
But there is a wiki, so you can definitely check that out. And I gotta add, because I posted the origins that I had done at the time on Patreon for everybody to read, so I gotta update that. But thank you guys for giving us nearly 3 hours of your day. Or we're way past 3 hours. What am I talking about? 3 hours of your day. You guys are amazing. You're absolutely amazing. Never let anybody tell you otherwise. If somebody tries to downplay you, tell them that Sean from the Comics Pal said you're amazing. They can't argue with that.
And then let me know what their
Sean.
reaction is.
Yeah, right. Scripture said, I'm surprised there's not a dedicated blog or Discord channel for it. Would love to see fan art. There is fan art. There's a
There
lot of
is.
fan stuff. There is a dedicated Patreon channel. Non-patrons can't see it. If you are on the Discord, Scripture, and I don't know if you are, but if you are, hit me up and I will get you access to that channel. But Izzy, who joined us very briefly earlier, put together some like miniature figures of some of the characters in the Palsverse. So, and is there any like actual fan art?
The not fan art, but I think like compilations of certain things. Because I know like Atomic Hounds, Hound Picture is up and on. Amin, actually no, Amin is using one of the figures from Izzy's. There could be.
Yeah. Mike Hank says new merch when? We do have a merch store. How
It's getting revamped. I'm in the process of that, so we'll make an announcement because I'm trying to do stuff with it.
Oh shit, well you should have told me.
It's like
Trying
news
use
to
our
me.
memes.
I'll share the link, just why not? We don't actually make very much money at all from the
No.
from the merch, but if you want to own Pals merch, you definitely can.
If you want a Comics Pals mug, just like Jeff Johns has, you can.
He literally uses it.
I know.
He uses it.
It's in a lot
That's
of his
so
pictures.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that shit. Electric says Sean should still submit a readout sample to publishers to make audiobooks. Can't even hear him breathe between the pronunciations. Dude. Thank you so much for saying that. I used to want to fucking slit my throat because I could not control my breathing. And I have asthma and I have a deviated septum and all types of awful shit going on with my nose and all that. So it means a lot to me to receive a compliment like that coming from somebody who was never comfortable with their voice ever before I started doing this. I had to overcome a lot to be a host of a show where I have to talk this much. Anyway, thank you guys so much for today. You've been amazing. The next time we will be live with you is Thursday, back to our regular schedule for Pals Pulse. But before that, we will be dropping Pals Previews, which is every Monday. We've got a new format now where we are looking at League of Comics Geeks live and talking about the books live. So we're talking about a lot more books. You're getting to hear us talk about books that never make the show. So please tune in and please give feedback. If you don't like it, say why. If you like it, say why. We appreciate all comments, positive and negative. Thank you guys so much. We love you.